And we're here on San Diego Sports 760 with you, of course, on YouTube as well, the iHeartRadio app. We've got you covered here today. Cynthia Frelund is going to join us. Great analytics voice in the NFL. She works for the NFL Network. She'll get us ready for tomorrow, the opener in the National Football League. She'll get us ready for week 1 as well. So Cynthia Frelund will join us coming up at 4:30. Jimmy Beal is San Diego State's running backs coach. He will join us in the 5 o'clock hour. Brent and I initially start the show by laughing. I can never do this right. First of all, do we even have volume on our YouTube stream? Hopefully we do. I was a bit rushed again in here. Brent, let me know if we do or don't.
Chat's not telling us otherwise.
So we probably do. But I couldn't set up the screen. For those of you with us on radio, which is a majority of people, we've got this studio set up where sometimes when things are like televised or broadcast, we have like a video board, a television behind us where we can put up like the John and Jim show or the Darren Smith show or Big Rich, Titi and Fletch. Well, I didn't have time in the break to fully remember I was supposed to put up like the image of the John and Jim show. So now I'm stuck with like this. I don't even know what I've put up behind me.
Well, nobody does because preview's not available. Can't you read?
This is, there's always something. There's seriously always something. I'll try to get that fixed at the break. Listen, the results are the results at this point for the Padres. It's not like if they were winning 5-0 right now, you'd be like, here they come. Postseason, they're on their way. Or if they're losing 5-0, which I think is the score right now. Is it 5-0?
Yes.
So it's 5-0 Phillies. Phillies are on their way to winning this series. The disappointment of the 2023 season continues. That's not the overall point for me right now. I had this remember yesterday, someone on the text line was like, you got to get rid of Fernando Tatis Jr. He's a cancer. He's a problem. Keep Juan Soto. The issue is Fernando Tatis Jr. The issue is Bob Melvin. So I had this passionate plea for Fernando Tatis Jr. yesterday during the show. And what was interesting was after last night's game, Fernando Tatis Jr. homered. It was his bobblehead night. Padres won big. Bob Melvin was asked specifically about Tatis. And we have the sound, right? And he said the same things that I said yesterday about Fernando Tatis Jr. Listen to this from Bob Melvin post-game yesterday.
Yeah, you know what? It's just ebbs and flows of the season. You know, if you really look, and I had this conversation with him the other day, he missed a year plus. He's got 2 surgeries. He's playing a new position, playing every single day. I did not intend to play him every day. I was really hoping for maybe 10 games and 1 off. That type of thing for him. But the position we were in, from the very beginning, and as athletic as he is, how well he was playing in right field, it was hard to give him days off. So I think, you'll see who he is, different spurts, but this probably wasn't going to be a perfect year for him to begin with. But I'm really proud of the way he's gone about it and has been as durable as he has and gone through some tough periods with his head up and continues to play hard.
I really think, everything Bob Melvin said is probably a better way of saying whatever I said yesterday about Tatis. And I'm 100% on board with everything that Melvin is selling. And I know nobody really wants to hear about 2024, considering the disappointment of 2023. I understand it. We all get it. This has been, as I've said a lot, abject failure. The whole month of September at this point is essentially meaningless. But here's the thing with sports, as we all know. And like we've talked about in baseball for 100 years, wait till next year, right? Cubs fans said it literally for 100 years before eventually breaking through again 5 years ago.
That was the ending of the Bad News Bears.
Right. There's always wait until next year in baseball. Nobody wants to hear it, especially Padres fans, right? No World Series titles in the history of the franchise. But 2024, and we've all been fooled before, but from Fernando Tatis Jr.'s perspective, 2024 has a chance to really be a big year. It really does. And it's not me just selling that. It's just not. But when you consider what Tatis had to overcome, and there were obstacles everywhere from getting booed throughout the course of the year to the surgeries that Melvin addressed to the PED suspension. Like, he didn't play for a year and the expectations were unrealistic. And everyone should take blame for that. Everyone was hoping Fernando Tatis Jr. was going to be the exact same player. It was more hoping than anything else because we had seen this guy be like Superman before. He's been as good as any player in baseball, and he was doing it at such a young age. Like, he could overcome a PED suspension and a wrist surgery and another and a shoulder surgery. It's Fernando Tatis Jr. And he hasn't gotten any days off all year long. And you look up and you're like, it's been a nice year. It hasn't been a spectacular year. It's not the same as he was when he was, a pup in the big leagues as a 20-year-old or a 19-year-old, but it's still been a solid year. And then if you fast forward now to next year, and some of the distractions, I think, go by the wayside. You don't have to worry about the wrist anymore. You trust it. You don't have to worry about the shoulder as much. You trust it. The position is no longer new. And I don't know if it's fair or unfair. It's probably not fair to say, well, just have like an Acuna projection where Acuna wasn't great in 2022, at least by his standards, and then it's becoming like an MVP in 2023 with the homers and the steals. And maybe that's unrealistic too with Fernando Tatis Jr., but I'm saying he's 24. He missed a year. He's coming off injuries. It's been a down year for everyone. Let's see it through. And Brent, I think you agree. I think there's reasons to believe that Tatis can have a huge year in 2024, even if 2023 is a quote unquote down year for him.
I get, your point of you don't want to start talking about 2024 when, hypothetically, the body on 2023 hasn't even gone cold yet.
Right.
So I do get that, but yeah, it's one of those things where, and I've said it before, to where at certain points he didn't seem like the normal Tatis, to where every night he was going out there and just giving you like one of these just amazing, just things like, wow, did you see what Tatis did? Whether it was, some matrix slide or, stealing home, which I know he did a couple weeks ago, or just, just crushing home runs. But it's like we said, he's pretty much sat with the injury and the suspension is closer to almost a year and a half without playing. And, I think he's going to have a big year. If they don't have comeback player in the year in baseball like they do in every other sport.
No, I don't think
if they
do.
did, I think that he would be a strong candidate for it next year. And even his numbers this year, for him, they're bad. But if you compare him to like other, like, average players, this would be a great year for them. So.
No, I agree with that. By the way, Jim, who hasn't been here in like 3 weeks, who signs this 2-year extension to be on John and Jim and goes off to Philadelphia with his fiance, Erin, has the nerve during a solo show. I would never do this to Jim. I would never text him throughout the course of the show. You're an idiot. Change the USB. The levels are this. Change your microphone. Change your camera. He's got the nerve to do that, missing like his 100th straight show on his plane back from Philadelphia. Okay? So we're doing everything we can right now is what we're doing. Okay, here's the deal, by the way. We've buried the lead. We have San Diego State UCLA tickets to give away. This game's going to be Saturday at Snapdragon Stadium. Caught up with Brady Hoke earlier today. You'll hear the Brady Hoke Show coming up at 6 p.m. tonight on San Diego Sports 760. Aztec running back coach Jimmy Beal is on the show at 5:30. Cynthia Frelund from the NFL Network. She'll get us ready for the Thursday night opener and week 1. She will join us coming up at 4:30. Obviously, a huge game for San Diego State. Not making or breaking the season, but a huge game for San Diego State. I thought the Ohio game, as interesting as this may sound, and you might say, John, what are you talking about? I thought the Ohio game was more impactful on the Aztec season than the UCLA game. And the reason I said that was the Ohio game was going to dictate potentially the entirety of the season. It was game 1, week 0, and you couldn't afford to lose it considering the schedule you had coming up. UCLA, Oregon State, Boise State, Air Force. You couldn't afford to be anything other than 2-0 out of the gates. And they won that Ohio game. Now, it's not to say that these games, these out-of-conference Pac-12 games are house money games. I don't think they are. I don't think they go into it looking at it like that. Like, oh, it'd be nice to win, but we don't have to win. I don't think they go into it like that. But the 4 games upcoming, because you've started 2-0, you no longer have to go steal a game, so to speak. You can lose to UCLA and have a good year. You could get to a Mountain West Championship game and win one. But when you get to those games against Boise State and Air Force, you're going to need to get one of those 2 games, I would say, to get to a Mountain West Championship game. And listen, if you want to get to a New Year's 6 game, right, you're going to need to win all the games in your schedule. That's just how it works out of the group of 5. But in terms of getting to where you want to go by winning week 0 against Ohio, I don't think you have to all of a sudden be perfect here. Now, is this a big opportunity for San Diego State? No question about it. Beat UCLA a few years ago at the Rose Bowl. Aztecs have been really good against Power 5 opponents and the Pac-12 over the last 6-7 years since 2015. But I think with the start, not that it's given them margin for error, But with this being an out-of-conference game the next couple of weeks, with conference play beginning in a couple of weeks against Boise State, I think the conversation is different, Brent, if they're 1-1, and you're looking at the next 4 games like, wow, they have to get a game somewhere to avoid a 1-5 start. By starting 2-0, it just feels like it's a little more manageable how to navigate the upcoming month.
Yeah, they have a little more leeway. And, just in terms of this Saturday, it seems like they have a little more, I don't want to say wiggle room, but nobody's expecting them to go out and beat UCLA. So they can just come out now and do the old, get Jim's cliche book out, playing with house money, because since they're already 2-0, like you said, if they do drop this game, it's not going to be the end of the world. It's not going to have any effect on the conference standings or anything like that. So they're playing with house money. They, if they come out and pull a Colorado and, shock the college football world and beat UCLA on Saturday, it's plus for us. If we come out flat and we just can't get it done, then it's not the end of the world. We'll survive.
It is interesting that there is a little bit of this, like, to use the cliche wheel, this us against the world with San Diego State. Like, this is a huge line. San Diego State at home, open as a 9-point dog. It has swelled to 14.5. So nobody is believing right now. I mean, no one other than those that are, supporters or Aztec players and coaches are believing in San Diego State. Now, I heard Chip Kelly. We'll hear from him coming up actually later this hour, UCLA's head coach, and he was complimentary, as most coaches are, of their opponents leading up to the game. But there's this belief that San Diego State's 2-0 record isn't all it's cracked up to be, right? This idea that, well, they beat Ohio, but they only won by a touchdown. Well, let I remind you that if not for a roughing the passer penalty, San Diego State would have had a really impressive win against Ohio. I mean, a really impressive win. It would have been 27-6 going away. And then there's last week. And I said this yesterday. It's like, people are reading so much into this result and score against an FCS opponent, as if to say that San Diego State was playing in a national championship game against Idaho State, a team with a brand new coaching staff that had no film in 2023. So I understand it, the frustration coming out of that game. Fans aren't like, hey, we beat Idaho State 36-28. Here comes the perfect season. But I also think you need to be careful to overreact to a game against an FCS opponent that in the grand scheme is just one game, and you just got to win the game.
Well, the Idaho State game, that was one of those things where it's, if they would have came out and they won, 50-7, it would have been, oh, it doesn't mean anything because they're not even a D1 school and they're supposed to do that, blah, blah, blah. So it's one of those where if they would have came out and done that, they wouldn't have gotten any credit for it. And since the game was closer than it should be, now everyone wants to, just, oh, we struggled against Idaho State. What are we going to do against UCLA? And it doesn't apply, I don't think.
Right. No, I do agree with that. And you can't always tie each and every game together and pretend like it's some straight line. Just because Colorado won at TCU doesn't mean they look like that team this weekend at home against Nebraska. Just because San Diego State, quote unquote, struggled with Idaho State means that all of a sudden they've got, no shot against UCLA.
Well, and they won't admit it, but, everyone's talking about whether the Bruins were, overlooking Coastal Carolina and, looking towards the Aztecs, but nobody brought up maybe the Aztecs were overlooking Idaho State and looking towards UCLA.
It's funny because the more time I've spent covering San Diego State and specifically San Diego State football, the more I learn. And you've heard me say this so many times, and we read it yesterday in the text line. I've said it about football and basketball at the Aztecs, that it's not a beauty contest, but people want to make it out to be one. Where I've always said the end result, specifically in a sport like college football, is really what matters most. I understand that you want your cake and you want to eat it too, another cliche on the wheel. But at the end of the day, and I see it even in the text line here today. It's like, yeah, they win, but they need to have a quarterback that can throw the football. Or they win, but they're doing it with their defense. What about the offense? I'm like, well, the alternative, I don't know if people really prefer the alternative. I get it. It's Southern California. You want it to be dressed up potentially, right? You want it to look good to some extent, but you also want to win. I mean, San Diego State has had periods of time in their football history where they've scored and haven't won. And I don't think that was exactly like the rallying cry in the history of the football program. Like, hey, we scored a lot of points and lost games. I mean, Jared Tolver, who joins us every single week on the pregame show, March to Kickoff, and is on all the time. Darren Smith's show, John and Jim, had some unbelievable individual numbers in his career. He had a 20 catch game against Hawaii in a game that they lost. And he only played in one bowl game in his career. Like Ryan Lindley threw for 12,000 yards. And I'd have to look at his career record, but didn't have the same record as some of the players that have followed him and have not had the same individual success in an Aztec uniform. So, like, I do hear a lot of times, like, I'd prefer that they lose 49-42 than win 13-10. You've heard that before with San Diego State, right?
Yes, and that's one of those things that you say that, but if that actually happened, you'd
be killing the defense.
Yes, you'd be killing the defense, and you'd want everyone fired still, just like you want them fired now because they're not winning by enough. So, yeah, you can say that now, but like I said, after 3 losses of 42-38. You're gonna change your mind really quick.
And then there's this happy medium where everyone's like, well, okay. I don't want to win 13-10. I don't want to lose 49-42. Can they just consistently beat people 28-21? And I'm like, let's hold on for a second, because it's really tough when you're coming out of the group of 5 and it's hard enough to win at a very high level. There's very few programs that consistently win at a high level in the group of 5. Like, can you do that? Like, say, not only do I want to win, I want to win in this manner. It's like their most sustained success at any point in the history of the program since Don Coryell is now, since Brady got here in 2009, through this current period of time, right? 2023. Has it been perfect? No. Would you like to get to a New Year's Six bowl game and win one? Absolutely. Would they like to win a 22nd championship in school history this year? Absolutely. Have they had opportunities? Right, a couple of years ago, they lost to Utah State in that championship game, had all those players out because of COVID. Like, it's not to excuse that, for example, last year they went 7-6, but it's like they have consistently won. They've done it with defense and special teams over offense, but that's their DNA. We always complain about the Padres in 2023, for example, or even under A.J. Preller, 2019, 2021, and 2023. And what do we say? What's their culture? What's their DNA? Who is this team? The one thing we can say about San Diego State football is they have an identity, okay? The 3-3-5, winning with defense, time of possession, ball control, and it might not be as sexy as you want it to be, but I think it's better than the alternative of not having a DNA and winning some games and losing some games, scoring some points, but allowing more. I mean, it's easy to say you'd like to see them score 40 points and you're okay with a 42-40 loss. And it's another thing if that's actually happening, to your point, each and every week.
Well, and to your point, that if you want to meet in the middle and have kind of these middle ground scores, you can't go out there and commit 14 penalties. If you're Alabama, you can go out and commit 14 penalties and still win by 30 points. If you're the Aztecs, you can't go out there and, just shoot yourself in the foot constantly. Because if they would shore up some of these penalties, I think a lot of their games would be in the 28-14 type of range, opposed to, being 1-score games, because we get, points taken off the board, or we'll have, like look at last week. We had momentum going a few times. We're like, hey, all right, got him off the field on 3rd down. Oh, wait, flag for face mask or pass interference or something that would just all of a sudden take our momentum and just flush it down the toilet.
Right. 140 yards of penalties is tough. That's tough to have the game where you're scoring 45 points or being really good on defense. You're either extending drives for someone or halting your own drives. We'll hear from Chip Kelly, his thoughts on San Diego State coming up at 3:45. When this Padres game goes final, we will hear from Bob Melvin. Cynthia Frelund from the NFL Network will join us at 4:30. We do have San Diego State UCLA tickets, by the way, to give away today, and we'll do that between now and 6 p.m. We'll stay on the college football theme on the other side, because there's a possibility that one of the best college football quarterbacks really ever could forego the 2024 draft and stick around until 2025. Why? We'll answer that on the other side. Just underway. Don't go anywhere. It's John and Jim.
Here's what's trending from the iHeart Sports Network, presented by County of San Diego, HHSC. Here's what's trending from the iHeart Sports Network, presented by County of San Diego, HHSA. The Padres are taking on the Phillies down at Petco Park. Right now, the Padres trail 5-0 in the bottom of the 7th inning. In NFL news, the Niners and defensive end Nick Bosa have agreed to a 5-year, $170 million extension that will make him the highest paid defensive player in history. The extension includes $122.5 million guaranteed. In other NFL notes, Travis Kelce has been officially listed as questionable for the Chiefs season opener against Detroit tomorrow, and the Rams have ruled wide receiver Cooper Kupp out for week 1. The Aztecs take on UCLA this Saturday at 4:30. Our pregame coverage starts right here at 2:30. And don't miss the Brady Hoke Coaches Show tonight with John and Rich starting at 6. If you haven't gotten your updated COVID vaccine yet, make sure you do it. Getting the COVID vaccine is the safest and most effective way to protect yourself. Visit san diego county.gov/coronavirus to schedule an appointment to get your updated COVID vaccine.
Why would the best quarterback in college who's eligible for the 2024 draft return to college in 2024? We'll explain next.
Here's what's trending from the iHeart Sports Network, presented by County of San Diego, HHSA. The Padres are taking on the Phillies down at Petco Park. Right now, the Padres trail 5-0 in the bottom of the 7th inning. In NFL news, the Niners and defensive end Nick Bosa have agreed to a 5-year, $170 million extension that will make him the highest paid defensive player in history. The extension includes $122.5 million guaranteed. In other NFL notes, Travis Kelce has been officially listed as questionable for the Chiefs season opener against Detroit tomorrow, and the Rams have ruled wide receiver Cooper Kupp out for week 1. The Aztecs take on UCLA this Saturday at 4:30. Our pregame coverage starts right here at 2:30. And don't miss the Brady Hoke Coaches Show tonight with John and Rich starting at 6. If you haven't gotten your updated COVID vaccine yet, make sure you do it. Getting the COVID vaccine is the safest and most effective way to protect yourself. Visit san diego county.gov/coronavirus to schedule an appointment to get your updated COVID vaccine.
All right, San Diego State, UCLA, Saturday at 4:30. You can hear it right here on San Diego Sports 760. We've got tickets to give away. Brady Hoke Show coming up tonight at 6 p.m. right here on San Diego Sports 760. But Aztecs Bruins tickets. UCLA has not been here since 2005 to play San Diego State. We'll give those away between now and 6 p.m. Cynthia Frelund, NFL Network, will get you ready for tomorrow night, the opener of the NFL season. She'll join us coming up at 4:30. We'll hear from Bob Melvin once this Padres-Phillies game, by the way, goes final down at Petco Park. So this is a really interesting story out of college football that could potentially impact the NFL as well as soon as next year. Caleb Williams, star quarterback at SC. Some consider one of the top quarterback prospects in the history of college football, right? He's won a Heisman. He could go back-to-back. He's probably the favorite right now to win another Heisman here in 2023. It's early, but this guy is a prize prospect. Clearly the top prospect heading into the 2024 draft, assuming he stays healthy. So his father, I think he told GQ that, hey, listen, there is not a guarantee, even though he's eligible after his third year, which is this year, even though he's eligible for the 2024 draft, there's no guarantee he's going to enter the draft. He may return to college in 2024 if the situation for him with the team that's picking first overall isn't conducive. Right? We've seen this throughout the course of football history,
John
obviously.
Elway, yeah.
Look no for San Diego Chargers, right?
Yeah, that's true.
With Eli. So that alone isn't a surprise to hear someone talk like that. But here's the thing. What he's saying has some validity to it. When you're the quarterback of SC in the name, image, and likeness era, it's like, what's your price tag on happiness? He's already earning money. 10 years ago, you're not earning. You're not earning. It would have been a significant risk. Didn't Andrew Luck come back for an extra year at Stanford?
Yeah.
At the time, considered a significant risk. What if you have a back injury or a knee injury or a shoulder injury? You could be costing yourself tens of millions of dollars. Still may be possible with Caleb Williams if he returned for an extra year. The amount of money in the NFL for the top overall pick could be worth tens and tens of millions of dollars. But here's the thing. You still have, you can pick up an insurance policy, which happens with guys that are in college. Secondly, Caleb Williams right now has as much NIL money coming in as probably a lot of professional athletes. Now, I'm not saying he's making $100 million, but he's definitely making,
because he's on national Wendy's
he's on
commercials
Wendy's
every
ads.
weekend.
Yeah, I think he's got to deal with United. If you Google right now Caleb Williams NIL deals, and Brent, if you wouldn't mind doing it, there are at least a handful. These aren't $500 here, $1,500 there deals. He's in LA. He's won a Heisman. He plays for SC. He's the favorite to win another Heisman, right? This isn't, hey, I'm working with the mom and pop pizza shop and I get free pizza on Saturday nights. These are big deals.
He's making about $2.6 million a year.
Think about that. Caleb Williams, if he's making $2.6 million right now, and maybe that's not first overall pick money in the NFL, but that's more money than maybe half of the active roster for the Padres right now.
United Airlines, PlayStation, some yoga place.
Right. So these are big.
Tops, like trading cards. And so, yeah, he's got a bunch of big ones.
Brent, $2.6 million. You know what? I mean, let's go look. If we looked at the Padres 26-man active roster, Tom Cosgrove pitched out of that bullpen with a 1.5 ERA. He ain't making $2.6 million. Guys getting drafted, by the way, in the NFL, former Aztecs that are in the NFL right now that aren't former first-round picks like Rashad Penny, they're not making $2.6 million a year. If you've got a chance of the best of both worlds, be comfortable at SC, earn money, go back for an extra year, have a situation that's more conducive to winning the NFL. Now, you can't guarantee that, by the way. It's not like if you go back, all of a sudden you're avoiding the Arizona Cardinals. Like, they could be bad again. Or whomever.
Or you could get someone that's worse.
Right. So, and his father was basically critical of the process. Like, this situation sets you up to fail. You're the best in college and they put you in the worst spot. Like that's not reasonable. So if we are in a spot that we aren't comfortable with,
that's like a completely selfish way for him to look at it. It's just like, oh, well, that doesn't work out for us. It's like, well, I know, but it's supposed to help the team, not just set you up.
Right. And keep the 32 teams competitive and not have two teams that have no chance of winning and two teams that only win.
What I'm wondering is, is the NFL going to go back to the drawing board here and reconsider what rookie contracts are going to look like? Because now they're going to have competition to be like, hey, we can't have the best player in college football just keep going back to college because, the difference between him being, the number one pick and him just staying at school and doing Wendy's and PlayStation 5 commercials is like 5 million. We
You're
need,
saying it's got to be more of a
yeah,
disparity.
we have to make it so that, he should have no doubt in his mind that, oh, I'm coming out. I'm not going back to school. There's, I can do Wendy's commercials in the NFL. I'm going to go pro. Opposed to, what are they going to do if, say 2 years from now when, NIL is probably just completely gone crazy and off the rails. Like, say the top 3 or 5 picks go, now we're all going back to school. We don't need the money because we make money in college.
At this rate, he might redshirt.
Well,
maybe once a fifth year.
But what are they going to do if the NFL draft is just like has no talent because all the top players are not going? So we have to go with the backup ones.
Players are going to want to play at the highest level. I do think there's now at least a shot for guys to consider returning because of the opportunities financially while still in college. I'll give you another example by the way, because I think name, image, and likeness is definitely a slippery slope. I think you could argue that NIL, name, image, and likeness, creates more of a gap between the haves and the have-nots in college athletics, right? Because all of a sudden, SC can swoop in, and let's say San Diego State's got one of the best left tackles in the group of 5. Well, if they can't compete in the NIL game, then all of a sudden that left tackle might be at SC. Actually, it just happened. Josh Simmons, who's the starting right tackle maybe for Ohio State, who played at San Diego State last year as a true freshman. But here's the other side of that conversation. Lamont Butler returns to San Diego State after that terrific tournament run, including the shot against FAU, and he's had NIL opportunities. Now, I think he could have earned more elsewhere, but a credit to Lamont and his family saying that this is an Aztec, right? He's not leaving San Diego State, and he'll have opportunities to earn in name, image, and likeness with the Aztecs. But consider this. If there was no NIL right now in college athletics, if Lamont Butler was coming off a postseason like the one he just enjoyed, would he more aptly consider professional opportunities off of last year? Even if that's not the NBA, G League, Europe, ways to earn as opposed to return. I think the incentive now to return is, again, you can have the best of both worlds. You can finish your degree. You can, play at a high level of Division I college basketball, and you can earn money in name, image, and likeness. So now this has really changed everything, and it's happened in such a short period of time. Previously, you're not coming back to college. It was so rare to see it. The Andrew Lucks of the world, potential to be top overall picks, and you're returning, you're putting so much money on the line. But you got a chance to earn millions in college right now, then you can be a little bit picky when it comes to whether or not you come out for the NFL draft if you want the situation to be better than potentially getting drafted first overall by the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, because it's like you said, you might get lucky, pun intended, I guess, and be Andrew Luck and come back and stay healthy, or his former teammate, remember Bryce Love? Was it Bryce Love?
Bryce Love, yeah.
Said he was going to come back. He was going to be like top probably 7 pick.
And he got hurt.
Yeah, he got hurt. And he went from being a top 10 pick and the number 1 back taken in the draft to, what did he get taken, like 3rd or 4th round maybe? Because he dropped so much with that injury.
Right.
So, it's 2 sides of the coin. You're going to get lucky and not get hurt. It's going to pay off. If you get hurt, you're going to drop bad.
100%. All right, when this Padres game goes final, which will be soon, we'll hear from Bob Melvin wrapping up a 7-game homestand, a 3-game series against the Phillies. Coming up next, you're going to hear from Chip Kelly, his thoughts on San Diego State as we get you ready for Saturday. Cynthia Frelund from the NFL Network will stop by at 4:30. We'll get you ready for week 1 in the NFL, including Lions Chiefs tomorrow night in the NFL opener. And, oh, by the way, we have San Diego State UCLA tickets to give away for Saturday at Snapdragon Stadium. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere. Chip Kelly, you'll hear from him next right here on John and Jim. All right, remember The Athletic? They had San Diego State's men's basketball team unranked in their preseason top 25. What about ESPN? Plus Chip Kelly on facing San Diego State at Snapdragon Stadium this weekend. Stay with us. All right, Cynthia, Frelund, NFL Network. She will join us coming up at 4:30. We've got Aztec tickets for Saturday against UCLA to give away. We'll do that coming up between now and 6 p.m. Remember last week when I freaked out because the Athletic didn't have San Diego State basketball in the preseason top 25? Of course you do. I lost my mind. Well, it's interesting that we have that information, and then ESPN today releases their way too early top 25 and a San Diego State 12th. So again, the Athletic doesn't rank the Aztecs. ESPN has them 12th. The Athletic then followed up. How about this, Brent? There was this lengthy mailbag written by that writer. I don't even know who it is. And he was asked specifically, yo, dude, how did you not have San Diego State, who was in the national championship game and returns 3 starters and added the Pac-12 sixth man of the year? How are they not in the top 25? He wrote this lengthy defense. And where what he should have just said is dude, my bad. I completely I missed. It was an omission. I just completely missed on this. He's got this lengthy. He basically admitted, hey, I'm probably wrong because we should give San Diego State the benefit of the doubt.
But he made the response so long no one would read it.
Basically, but he's listen, they lost Matt Bradley and Keyshawn Johnson and Nathan Mensah. And I'm well, yeah, but they've lost Matt Mitchell and Jordan Shackle and Malachi Flynn and all these guys over the years. And guess what? They reload. And systematically, they're always contending in their league. And they're often in the top 25. And they're often in the NCAA tournament. So, a team coming off an NCAA title game appearance with Brian Dutcher as its head coach that's had as much success over the last 25 years with Steve Fisher and Brian Dutcher. Yeah, no, they're not in the top 25. Yeah, sure, FAU. Yeah, FAU. I mean, yeah, their culture, their history, their preseason 10. But San Diego State, Yeah, I mean, they only win each and every year for the last 25 years. But, I just have question marks. Without Nathan Mensah. Give me a break, The Athletic. I almost want to unsubscribe. I've considered it. It's a possibility based on that. Seriously.
That's a serious threat.
That's a serious threat. I'm going to tag them. At Athletic, put the Aztecs in the preseason top 25 or I'm unsubscribing. Okay, Chip Kelly today met with the media as he prepares the Bruins for the Aztecs Saturday at 4:30 right here on San Diego Sports 760. Pregame coverage will begin at 2:30. Brady Hoke Show, by the way, coming up tonight at 6 p.m. Here was Chip Kelly, some impressions and thoughts on facing San Diego State.
You got 2 games of film.
There's 2 games of film. They played Ohio University in the opening game, and Ohio University had one of the top quarterbacks in the country, and they knocked him out of the game. And they did a really good job forcing turnovers. They're the same they've always been. They're a very, very strong defensive football team. They've been that way for a while now. And then offensively, it's a little bit more of a run-operated game right now. Quarterback was the leading rusher last week. He's a really, really good athlete. Was a converted safety. Has done a lot of damage with his legs. But they do have some talented wideouts and tight ends that I think we have to be conscious of in terms of what they can do to you in the pass game. But they're a really well-coached team. They're sound in every phase. They have an outstanding kicker. Somebody who grows a watch list can really kick the ball. So, you're going to have to be on top of it in all 3 phases, offensively and defensively, and special teams.
So that's Chip Kelly on facing San Diego State, coming down to Snapdragon Stadium. Very complimentary of the Aztecs heading into this game. We mentioned it earlier. There's this idea, well, they only beat Idaho State by 8. There's no shot, right? Yet, I don't know if you watched UCLA last weekend. They had 3 interceptions from their quarterbacks. They played multiple quarterbacks. They're expected to play 3 this weekend. So it's not like UCLA is a finished product either, is the point. It would be one thing. Listen, if San Diego State coming off that game against Idaho State is traveling to Tuscaloosa this weekend, okay. I would understand the skepticism. It might be hard to compete with a top 5 team in the country. And UCLA, by the end of the year, could be towards the top of the Pac-12. It's a loaded conference in its final year. So maybe they will be, maybe they won't be. We're going to find out. But okay, there's question marks about San Diego State. Well, yeah, it's only been 2 games and it's college football. But, oh, by the way, there's question marks about UCLA. They were in a 1-point game with Coastal Carolina in the second half. It was a 1-score game in the fourth quarter, and they won 27-13. They're not coming off a 81-7 win. That's what Oregon did this weekend, by the way, over Portland State, a program out of FCS. But they didn't win by 70 points. They're not consistently winning 11 or 12 games right now. This is their first road game. There's reasons to believe that San Diego State can put themselves in a position to be in this game, is my point. Now you look at the Vegas line, and Vegas is not believing in the Aztecs, and the line continues to trend towards UCLA. And right now, San Diego State's something like a 14 or 14.5 point underdog. It's a big number, but that's all it is. It's a number. It doesn't guarantee the way the game plays out. And what we said earlier as well is that it's not like this is the entire season. If it goes well and you win it, great. You haven't done anything in the Mountain West. If it doesn't go well and you lose, well, not so great, but you still have the entire conference schedule to play.
It's up to 14.5.
14.5.
So it went up a point since yesterday.
All right, so it's a big number. There's no question. There are those that are doubting San Diego State heading into this game. And there's those that say, well, they're 2-0, but they beat Ohio by a touchdown, not by more. They knocked out their starting quarterback. They beat Idaho State, but they were expected to win by 30-plus points. They ended up winning 36-28. So we'll learn a lot, would be my guess, about both San Diego State and UCLA this weekend at Snapdragon Stadium. 4:30, again, is the kick time. Saturday afternoon, our pregame coverage will begin at 2:30. And here's what we're going to do today. Those San Diego State UCLA tickets that we're going to give away, we'll do so in the 4 o'clock hour again. We did it yesterday. We'll do it again today. 4 o'clock hour. Be listening. San Diego State, UCLA. We have a free pair of tickets we'll give away. Be listening. Do not call now. Be listening for your chance to win those San Diego State UCLA tickets. Isn't it amazing? Every time I mention them, people start calling. I didn't say call now. I said we're going to give them away in the 4 o'clock hour.
Oh, and real quick, I mentioned earlier in the show, I didn't think there was an MLB Comeback Player of the Year award.
But there is.
It started in 2005. So they just don't promote it or advertise it like lots of stuff MLB related.
Right.
Yeah, they do have one. So I was wrong.
It's like a tree falling in the forest. Nobody really knows that unless maybe you're team wins it or a player on your team
Yeah,
wins
because
it?
I honestly didn't think they had one because NFL and everything else at the end of the year, it's like, oh, so-and-so won comeback player of the year. And then baseball is like crickets.
Crickets. All right, hour 2 will get to the wrap on the other side. Padres, Phillies about to go final. Do the Padres finally have more than one hit in this game? They were sitting on one hit for forever. They still have one hit entering the 9th inning.
Now that's a tease.
One hit entering the 9th inning. On the other side, we'll get to the wrap. We'll hear from Bob Melvin postgame. And Cynthia Frelund from the NFL Network. She'll join us coming up at 4:30 to get us ready for Chiefs-Lions in Week 1 in the NFL. Plus San Diego State tickets. We'll give them away in the 4 o'clock hour. Hour 2, John and Jim. That's next.
Here's what's trending from the iHeart Sports Network, presented by NFL on CBS, streaming on Paramount Plus. The Padres are taking on the Phillies right now down at Petco Park. They're currently trailing the Phils 5-zip in the top of the 9th. We'll have Bob Melvin post-game audio as soon as we get it. In NFL news, the Niners and defensive end Nick Bosa have agreed to a 5-year, $170 million extension that's going to make him the highest-paid defensive player in history. The extension includes $122.5 million guaranteed. And in other NFL notes, Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce is officially listed as questionable for tomorrow night's opener against Detroit, and the Rams have ruled wide receiver Cooper Kupp out for Week 1. The Aztecs take on UCLA this Saturday at 4:30. Our pregame coverage starts right here at 2:30. And don't miss the Brady Hoke Coaches Show tonight at 6 with John and Rich. Here's what's trending from the iHeart Sports Network, presented by NFL on CBS. Here's what's trending from the iHeart Sports Network, presented by NFL on CBS, streaming on Paramount Plus. The Padres are taking on the Phillies right now down at Petco Park. They're currently trailing the Phils 5-zip in the top of the 9th. We'll have Bob Melvin postgame audio as soon as we get it. In NFL news, the Niners and defensive end Nick Bosa have agreed to a 5-year, $170 million extension that's going to make him the highest-paid defensive player in history. The extension includes $122.5 million guaranteed. And in other NFL notes, Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce is officially listed as questionable for tomorrow night's opener against Detroit, and the Rams have ruled wide receiver Cooper Kupp out for Week 1. The Aztecs take on UCLA this Saturday at 4:30. Our pregame coverage starts right here at 2:30. And don't miss the Brady Hoke Coaches Show tonight at 6 with John and Rich.
The NFL on CBS streams live on Paramount Plus.
Touchdown!
It all kicks off this Sunday at 4:25 Eastern when the Eagles visit the Patriots.
This is incredible.
Visit ParamountPlus.com/NFL to start your free trial today.
Getting you all set for that drive home. Let's just start the show. Here's John and Jim.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? Hour 2, John and Jim. This hour, we will give away San Diego State UCLA tickets for Saturday at Snapdragon Stadium. By the way, tickets are available at goaztecs.com. Should be a really good atmosphere. Grab those tickets at goaztecs.com. We'll give away a pair coming up this hour. Also this hour, the NFL season starts tomorrow. Cynthia Frelund, friend of the show, she joined us a lot last season, NFL Network analytics expert. She will join us coming up at 4:30. She'll get us ready for Chiefs Lions in week 1 in the NFL, and we'll get to the wrap here coming up in a moment. I will say this before the Padres game ends, and it is not over as they move to the bottom of the 9th inning. It's 5-0 Phillies, though, and the Padres have one measly hit in this game against a very good pitcher in Zach Wheeler, but one hit on a 77-degree day, afternoon game at Petco Park. I understand this one game isn't making or breaking the season. It's not like if they were up 5-0 and had allowed just one hit and had 12 hits themselves like the Phillies do here today, it would really change anything. But it just kind of further reinforces the point that this team has no level of consistency whatsoever. Even during what has been a relatively good homestand, I don't know if we'll consider it that if they lose this game, which is likely. I mean, they're 4-2 in this homestand coming into today. They had a chance to win this series and win back-to-back home series. And today they show up with one hit against Zach Wheeler. I know he's a good pitcher, but he's not Cy Young, and he's not having a Cy Young season. And he didn't have a 2 ERA. His ERA was close to 4 coming into this game. And by the way, the Padres were pitching Michael Wacha, who came in with his sub-3 ERA. So again, we know who they are. It's not exactly shocking that this is the result here today, but it's just another day where you like to have some level of hope that, hey, maybe they can find a way against a good pitcher because they've played better in September. And they've had one hit, Brett. One hit in 8 innings.
Is it weird seeing Strom pitching in a different uniform?
Not really. I've seen it enough now over the years that it's not
I'm
overly
just not
weird.
used to it.
Really? He pitched earlier this year against the Padres at Citizens Bank Park, I think right after the All-Star break. But again, it's like, you did some good things this homestand. You won 3 straight against the Giants. Took game 1. Did they win game 1 again? No, excuse me. They lost game 1 against the Phillies yesterday and shut out the Phillies yesterday 8-0. And then today, just a complete dud. One hit as we enter the bottom of the 9th inning. One hit against the Phillies here today. When the game goes final, we'll hear from Bob Melvin. Padres are off tomorrow. They'll be in Houston on Friday. They'll be in LA at Dodger Stadium next week. And they'll begin a 9-game road trip, actually, on Friday in Houston, Texas. Right now, let's get to this.
Do you still consider Chip Kelly an elite college football coach?
Yeah, I think he's a good coach. I really do. Elite's an interesting word because I don't know how many people we'd put in the category, but he's done a good job with UCLA. You could argue it's taken a little longer than some would have expected, but they've been good the last couple of years, and they've been a very good rushing offense over the last couple of years. Their defense apparently is much improved. They have really good edge rushers. Obviously, what he did at Oregon is you can't replicate that. And the rules have changed, and you can't play with that tempo. I don't know if he's ever going to have a run like that. And I don't know if he's going to get UCLA to the top of the Big Ten or to a college football playoff either. But I don't know if the word elite is right, but I do think he's a very good college coach.
Do you think he hurt himself by going to coach the Eagles for those 2 years instead of just staying in the Ducks?
No, I think he hurt himself by going to coach the Niners after the Eagles for that 1 year. Also, wasn't he facing some level of discipline at Oregon when he went to the NFL?
Oh, that could be.
There was something, I forget. It's some infraction that kind of forced his hand. He eventually returned. This is his 6th season with UCLA. And again, he hasn't had that complete breakthrough 11-1 type year, but they've been consistent the last couple of years.
He always just kind of seems gimmicky to me. Like he's going to go down in history with the dude that invented the Wildcat, to where it's just going to be like, oh, hey, you remember them Chip Kelly offenses that, just win is pretty much the equivalent of North Carolina basketball these days, only in football, where we're just going to go. And now it's, without his gimmick, it's not the same.
Well, it's almost like his gimmick was, quote unquote, gimmick was so successful, they literally had to change the rules of the game. Like now you have to allow defenses to substitute. You can only go at such a pace at this point. So the game has changed because of Chip Kelly, and even Chip has now had to adapt to that.
Well, even that, though, goes along with a lot of the rules now in college are changing to be more similar to the NFL with stuff like that. So I think that kind of goes along with, they can't do that in the NFL. They changed that rule, so they probably just switched it.
Let's get to our next question.
Would you take Caleb Williams or the field to win this year's Heisman?
I think I'm taking Caleb Williams, and there's a couple reasons why. Obviously, he won it a year ago. He's gotten off to a really fast start, again, against lesser opponents. But the Pac-12 is up this year, which I think is going to benefit Caleb Williams. I think there'll be more high-profile opportunities for SC. He proved last year you don't have to be on the best team, right? They lost twice last year to Utah, and he still won the Heisman Trophy. So they don't have to go perfect. They could probably lose a couple of games. They'll have Notre Dame, of course, as always, on their schedule. But his numbers were so good last year, and his start has been so good this year that he's going to fall into those numbers. He's going to be like a 40 touchdown, 5 interception candidate on a team that's going to win 10+ games. So I think he's going to be pretty difficult to dethrone. Now, of course, there's a million other candidates. Other players are going to emerge. It's not a guarantee, but I'd put it like 51-49 that I would take Caleb Williams over any other candidate this year.
I was going to say the field until you brought up that USC is pretty much on a farewell tour for the Pac-12 this year. So they're going to get tons of extra coverage, more than they usually would get, which is quite a bit. So yeah, I'll go with Williams with that.
What do we got next?
Would you rather the Padres win a lot or lose a lot over the final month of the year?
All right. So the premise of this question, as we've discussed on John and Jim a lot over the last, let's say, couple of weeks when the writing's been on the wall with the Padres, the fact that they're not going to make the postseason this year, right? And their chances are down to like literally a 1 in 100, if not a 1 in 1,000. The basic premise is this. If you can finish with one of the 6 worst records in baseball, you get to keep one of those top 6 picks in the draft. If you finish with the 7th worst record in baseball, your draft pick goes down 10 slots from 7 to 17, for example, in that situation. Now, does it matter? I've made this comp that this is not the NFL, right? Where you draft first overall, you end up with Caleb Williams. And this guy is your starting quarterback immediately in the National Football League and could be your starter. He could be a franchise quarterback for 15 years. It's not the NBA where you're drafting LeBron James and he could be a cornerstone piece to win titles for 10 or 15 years. Now, there are top overall picks in baseball that are really dynamic, and there's other top overall picks or top 5 picks that never pan out. And no matter who you take first or second or fifth or sixth overall, typically it takes years, even if it's only 2 or 3, to reach the major league level. The issue for the Padres this year, and this is now an issue for teams in professional sports, is you never want to fall in the middle. You either want to be really good or potentially really bad. But at this point, I feel as if, Brent, it's going to be too hard for the Padres to finish with a bottom 6 record. Like right now, let's see, 1, 2, there's 5 teams with the worst record in the National League, and there are 5 teams with fewer wins in the American League. So they literally have to go like, I'm making it up, 3-19, 4-18, 5-17 to have a shot at a bottom 6 record. And truthfully, is it any fun to watch a team that isn't having any success? Let me answer that. No, we've watched the 2023 Padres. So I'd prefer that they play good baseball as opposed to bad baseball, because this is a hope and a prayer anyway, that you go like 2-20 and end up with like the 5th overall pick, and all of a sudden you get the next Bryce Harper with that 5th overall pick. That's probably a bridge too far, isn't it? That's how I look at it.
I think it is, definitely.
All right, let's get to the final question.
All right, now the $122 million question. Is Nick Bosa worthy of being the highest paid defensive player in NFL history?
So like you said, guaranteed 122, chance to make 170, 5-year deal, highest paid defensive player ever, has had massive seasons, including last year, right, Brent? 21 21 sacks, 22, some ridiculous number.
He's got 34 sacks in the last 2 years and 70 QB hits.
Okay.
Any plays other than the 1 year when he
He had
tore
the
his
ACL.
ACL issue, he's played at least 14 games all year or every season. So he's reliable.
And here's the thing, all the rules benefit the offense. So I actually get spending money on like an impact piece defensively. Like if you have a breakthrough defensive piece, especially San Francisco, so well-rounded, relying on their defense as much as their offense, that it makes sense to me. And he's still, I mean, he's young and he's been incredibly productive, to Brent's point, other than the year he missed time with the ACL. So it's like they had no real choice. What's the alternative? Not having the best defensive player on your team or giving him what he's owed? And they're not paying their quarterback right now, right? Their quarterback's not making $30-40 million a year.
He's
So
on his rookie deal.
so give it to Nick Bosa. How old is he?
He'll be 26 in next month.
This makes sense. I mean, you're getting age 26 through age 30, right? You're getting age 26 through age 30 for an edge rusher. That to me makes sense. Yeah, it's a lot of money, but so what? If it helps you win, it's worth it.
And elite edge rushers can just be a game changer,
Yes.
whether it's, Lawrence Taylor or Julius Peppers, or if you have an elite guy on the edge, that makes a huge difference.
Interesting point here from Matt in the chat, who says Bosa contract insane. Parsons is going to get QB money for an off-ball linebacker turned defensive end. Crazy. Are we going to get to a point where defensive players, Bosa's, both of them, Parsons, that caliber of an athlete defensively could earn like a quarterback? I mean, is the answer, I guess, yes. Like Bosa money at 122, even over 5 years, is about 24, 25 a year. At 170 is 30 plus a year. Now we are talking QB money.
I think it depends on if they keep getting results, because, you can give Bosa this money, but if you look at like the flip side of when the Bears gave Khalil Mack that huge contract, and he was worth it for the first year, but then all the teams just decided, hey, we're just going to triple and quadruple team Khalil Mack, and then he became a non-factor. And so I think it depends. If they give Bosa this big deal and he comes out in the next 2 years and has 15 sacks and gets hurt, then I think that might steer away some teams to avoid giving a big contract to the defensive guys and lean more towards the offense.
You know what? I'm glad you mentioned it, and I'm glad we've referred to it a couple times here today. It's been in the updates. Let's ask Cynthia Frelund about spending this type of money on the defensive side of the ball and whether it's quote unquote worth it or not analytically. Cynthia Frelund, NFL Network, will join us in 15 minutes. The good news and the bad news from today at Petco Park. The good news, they weren't shut out. A 2-out single scored a run for the Padres. The bad news is they were trailing by 5. So the Padres have lost to the Phillies 5-1 today. They lose the series to the Phillies, who dominated the season series against the Padres. Phillies were 5-2 against the Padres. And now the road trip. Now it already has been over. We've talked about this obsessively and repeatedly. But you're getting to a point, Brent, where like mathematically, you're nearing a point where it's literally over. The Padres elimination number, which is any combination of losses plus wins by the team that currently holds the third wild card, that elimination number is 15. And it's gone down 4 in the last 3 games because teams in front of you are winning and you're losing. They entered today, and this has fluctuated between 0.9% and 2%, the chance of getting to the postseason, right, in Fangraphs. They entered today at 1.5%. They've since lost. Arizona has since won, a team they're chasing. Actually, the elimination number right now might be 14. We know it's over. It's been over throughout the course of September, August as well, based on the way they played. At some point, though, mathematically, it will be over. And then the Padres have a decision to make. Does Manny Machado stay in the active roster, or does he rest the elbow? Do you even play the game where you consider, hey, we're going to build Joe Musgrove back up, we're going to build you, or do you just say forget about it and look towards 2024? And I think we all know the answer I'm going with and you're going with. At this point, while it's not 100% official, I'm telling you, it's 100% official. The season's over. And all of your motivation and all of your actions should be based on what benefits this team next year, not this.
Yeah, there's no point in leaving Manny and those guys out there because, what if they would get hurt and then it would impact them returning on time for next season. So I think, especially from a fan standpoint, I think they're almost relieved now that they'll officially be eliminated and have no chance. They've been dying a slow death for, it feels like, months. That now, at least now they're not going to have to worry about, every time they're done, then they would win 3 in a row, because they can't win more than 3 in a row.
Right.
And just do enough to give us just a glimmer of hope and make us think, well, maybe this is maybe now they can turn it around. And now it's just done. Just sit the core guys, let them sit, and just, let's just see if some of the bench guys can win 4 games in a row.
I mean, of course the season's been disappointing, and to be out of it like as early as August is disappointing, and now to really officially all hope lost early September is disappointing. And you have, I think I have this right, 21 games to play over the next 3+ weeks. They've got Thursdays off throughout the course of the month. With what? I mean, what are we looking for? Hey, Matt Batten had a nice finish. Hey, Blake Snell is pitching for a Cy Young, and that, I guess, is something to look forward to.
He would be and if they're not going to re-sign him, there's no point in sitting him anyways, unless, I don't think he would want to be sat to worrying about his contract being affected because he's up for the Cy Young. So
true. By the way, no, you're not sitting. Blake Snell is playing.
No, I just mean like if he wasn't in Cy Young contention, I wouldn't put it past Blake Snell going, hey, we're out of it. I ain't pitching next week. I'm a free agent. I could go sign deals. I ain't pitching this meaningless game. But I think he is selfish enough to go, oh, wait, I'm up for the Cy Young. That could give me more money. I'll pitch. I don't care, who's out there with me. I'm going to pitch.
By the way, we'll hear from Bob Melvin coming up this hour. Cynthia Frelund, NFL Network, will join us coming up at 4:30. This is a Padres team that once again is 9 games under 500, that entered the 9th inning today at home at Petco Park on a gorgeous day in front of 30,000 fans with 1 hit. I mean, they're out there for 3 hours on this 77-degree day facing good pitching, and they had 1 hit. And the excuse of facing good pitching is getting old. Well, it's already gotten old. The Phillies were facing good pitching. His name was Michael Wacha, and they had 12 hits today. And the Phillies are obviously trending in a different direction. Phillies didn't get off to a great start this year. They've played great baseball in the second half of the year. They have mashers up and down their lineup. And then you have the Padres. And I hate to say it like this because I don't think it's entirely fair. And I'm not saying they're not working at it, but it feels like you're going through the motions when you have 1 hit at home through 8 innings, even against good pitching. And you score 1 run and you're never in a game. So it's just, again, incredibly disappointing. What do you got?
Text line 858. Oh, great. It just happened. Let's never talk about baseball again, ever.
Well, that's not going to happen. I promise you that. That's not going to happen on John and Jim. We will definitely talk about the Padres a lot. This may not be the show for you if you don't want any baseball talk. This may not be the show for you if you don't want any baseball talk. With that being said, are we going to be talking about the NFL? Yeah. Cynthia Frelund will join us. NFL starts tomorrow. Are we talking college football and basketball? You better believe it. Are we talking San Diego sports? Yes. Will we talk hot stove with the Padres and change is coming as soon as the second day of October? Yeah. We're going to spend a lot of time on that once the season ends. But there's no question about it. September, in terms of meaningful discussion, it's really about the Padres' future. It's not about the now. 619 saying 3 hits, John. Yeah, 1 hit through the first 8 innings. 2 hits in the 9th inning, great. They didn't face the closer. It was a 5-run game. They faced Matt Strahm, and they wouldn't have scored if not for a 2-out RBI hit. Somewhat ironic because the Padres have had very few. They've been very few and far between 2-out RBI hits for the Padres this year. I thought you had something.
Oh, no, I was looking at a text.
All right. So if you want to text us, by the way, 70470.
The Soka texts are starting to come in. Now,
okay.
John. I know you've been waiting for them all day.
I've been waiting. I don't even know what that means.
It's Star Wars stuff, John.
Is it started or something? The show?
It's been started. Me and Jim have been talking about it. Thanks for listening.
I haven't been listening. 619 wants to know, when will you allow Brent to do the wrap-up show? This is the wrap-up show, and Brent's doing it
I
with
did
us.
the wrap-up show once.
Yeah. Here,
think
right? On
yeah,
radio?
Yeah, I mean, you did it once. I think it was like one of your highest rated episodes.
I
ever.
think it was. Yeah, I do remember that. All right, Phillies over the Padres 5-1. We'll hear from Bob Melvin coming up. We'll give away those San Diego State UCLA tickets. Again, if you'd like to weigh in, 844-570-1360. You can also always text the show, 70470. Start your message with team. Again, 70470. You can start your message with team. All right, still ahead. Jimmy Beal, San Diego State's running backs coach. San Diego State ran for 300 yards this past week against Idaho State. A lot of that with Jalen Maiden, another couple hundred yards as well with their tailbacks. Jimmy Beal will join us coming up at 5:30. Cynthia Frelund has been very good to the show, a great voice on the NFL. She's going to join us on the other side. What does she think the impact of not having Travis Kelce could be on the Chiefs tomorrow night? NFL opener, Chiefs and Lions tomorrow night. Cynthia Frelund, NFL Network analytics expert. She'll join us on the other side of this break. Don't go anywhere. It's John and Jim. Cynthia Frelund, NFL Network, gets us ready for tomorrow night. Chiefs, Lions, and NFL Week 1. She'll join us next.
Here's what's trending from the iHeart Sports Network, presented by NFL on CBS, streaming on Paramount Plus. The Padres dropped their game against the Phillies today down at Petco Park 5-1. In NFL news, the Niners and defensive end Nick Bosa have agreed to a 5-year, $170 million extension that will make him the highest paid defensive player in history. And the extension does include $122.5 million guaranteed. Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce is officially listed as questionable for Thursday's season opener against Detroit. And the Rams have ruled wide receiver Cooper Kupp out for week 1. Make sure to catch the Brady Hoke Coaches Show tonight at 6 with John and Rich. And make sure to catch the Aztecs take on UCLA this Saturday at 4:30 with pregame coverage starting at 2:30.
Cynthia, Frelund, NFL Network. Chief.
From the iHeart Sports Network, presented by NFL on CBS, streaming on Paramount Plus.
The NFL on CBS streams live on Paramount Plus.
Touchdown!
It all kicks off this Sunday at 4:25 Eastern when the Eagles visit the Patriots.
This is incredible.
Visit ParamountPlus.com/NFL to start your free trial today.
The Padres dropped their game against the Phillies today down at Petco Park 5-1. In NFL news, the Niners and defensive end Nick Bosa have agreed to a 5-year, $170 million extension that will make him the highest paid defensive player in history. And the extension does include $122.5 million guaranteed. Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce is officially listed as questionable for Thursday's season opener against Detroit. And the Rams have ruled wide receiver Cooper Kupp out for week 1. Make sure to catch the Brady Hoke Coaches Show tonight at 6 with John and Rich. And make sure to catch the Aztecs take on UCLA this Saturday at 4:30 with pregame coverage starting at 2:30.
The NFL on CBS streams live on Paramount Plus.
Touchdown!
It all kicks off this Sunday at 4:25 Eastern when the Eagles visit the Patriots.
This is incredible.
Visit ParamountPlus.com/NFL to start your free trial today.
All right, John and Jim back with you on this Wednesday afternoon. We'll hear from Bob Melvin coming up. Padres lose to the Phillies, and to make matters worse, they lose Gary Sanchez to a fracture. G-Man Choi also an ankle fracture, I believe. So we'll hear from Bob Melvin coming up at 4:45. The forgettable season continues for the Padres. We'll give away San Diego State UCLA tickets as well. Saturday, Snapdragon Stadium will give away those tickets coming up within the next 30 minutes. But right now, it's great to catch up with Cynthia Frelund. Back with us, John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. From the NFL Network, she's an analytics expert. You can see Cynthia, in fact, every single weekend, every Sunday on NFL Network's NFL Game Day morning. That's at 6 a.m. Pacific. And Cynthia, we appreciate you hopping back on here in San Diego. I want to start with tomorrow. What's the potential impact here in the absence of Travis Kelce? What's this going to mean for the Chiefs in the short term beginning tomorrow night?
Well, I think part of it will mean that they need to slow the play down, which means more run game. So if you're looking for a fantasy kind of note on that, then you have something where you're going to be looking to make sure that, you know, you're not overestimating how many points are going to be scored in the game.
All right. So the Chiefs for a long while in this game were favored by something like 6.5 points. I think that numbers come down, and it's reasonable, right, for that number to come down, considering how impactful Travis Kelce can be.
Travis Kelce, and you also need to factor in the no Chris Jones. So
right.
They're going to be even more incentivized to run the ball because I don't know when it's official, right? I don't know when when it's like official that he's not playing or what. Like that part's confusing to me, but because we saw Nick Bosa today sign his deal. So we shall see, but I would imagine that slows everything way down.
Cynthia Frelund from the NFL Network with us right now on John and Jim. All right, the Lions playing in the Thursday night opener. Are you a believer in the Lions preseason hype?
I think the Lions are like a decent team. I don't think they're as, I'm from Michigan, so I've seen them be pretty bad for quite some time. But ultimately, I think they're not, look, like the NFC is so much more depleted than the AFC, just top to bottom. So they have a chance. I think they're a playoff team, but I think we should temper some expectations. Because remember, they're missing Jameson Williams. They're also missing Emmanuel Mosley will be starting this game, one of their corners that they acquired in free agency. So it's not that I don't think that they can be good. It's just that you're asking a lot from tight end, a rookie tight end, a rookie running back, and a running back that has never been with the team before, despite playing in the NFC North.
How big of an upset would you consider it if the Lions win tomorrow night?
Huge. I mean, it doesn't feel, I guess technically, I think people think it's about a touchdown or whatever, but, ultimately I think that would be it'd be a massive Dan Campbell kneecap biting moment for people.
Cynthia Frelund from the NFL Network is with us right now on John and Jim. So you mentioned how good the AFC is top to bottom compared to the NFC. When you look at the AFC, who is the biggest threat to the Chiefs?
I actually think that we were a year too soon with the Buffalo Bills. While I know that their division got harder, obviously, anytime Aaron Rodgers joins your division, it's going to be more difficult. But I think that the thing that we're kind of forgetting is they really addressed a lot of their problems this offseason. Their guard position is significantly better. They went out and drafted a guard from Florida, Osiris Torrance, and they brought in Connor McGovern on the left. So that's helpful. But also, they're going to be able to play with their healthy players again, right? The last time we've seen Tre'Davious White and Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde all on the field at the same time, that was Thanksgiving of 2021. So it's been, 2020 rather. So it's been quite some time. So you got to remember, sometimes it's easier to play with the good players.
No doubt about it. There's no question about it. You mentioned Aaron Rodgers, that Bills-Jets opener. Just in general, your expectations for the Jets this year with Aaron Rodgers under center?
I think that they'll get better as the season goes on. I mean, I think that there's a lot of hype around them, and it's very well deserved. That they were very interesting on Hard Knocks, etc. So with a lot of those things, it's a little bit about, we've got to ease them into it. I'm still afraid about their O-line. This is an O-line that was bottom third of the league, and that's being a little nice in terms of allowing their quarterback to be pressured last season. There are some questions that they still have to answer that don't have Aaron Rodgers as one of the potential answers to the question.
You see them as a playoff team, though?
I do, but I still think that it is to me it is the Bills to lose.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Cynthia Frelund with us right now from the NFL Network. So today we get news of this Nick Bosa deal, richest deal for a defensive player in the history of the league. Could be worth 170, is worth at least 122 million. It's worth it, right? I mean, you're talking about as good of a player as there is on that side of the ball. Like, the Niners don't have any other choice other than to pay him that kind of money, right?
I mean, the kind of like, life's about the structure of the deal, right? Like, that's a massive deal, and he's obviously a player who is one of the best, if not at his position, if not like right up top there. But like, look, like, it's hard because the cap went up about a little more than 8% this season. Quarterback pay is going up like 12%, and that's outpacing. So you got to remember, like, it's outpacing. So you'll see squeezes all across the board. Well, you also have to remember that kind of as the everything changes from the standpoint of, now your TV deal locked in. Okay, we got that money, but it's going to be digital money now. Okay, that got, like, it's just a lot of things are changing. So the teams that have the best ability to create flexible and creative contracts are going to be the teams that have the best luck. And by luck, I mean better players and better chance to win. So when I'm looking at that, I'm thinking to myself, okay, like they probably figured out something creative to do. I don't know what it is, but that number's probably not. It's probably not exactly right. And by the way, they don't have to pay a quarterback because
right.
Trey Lance, they shipped out of there.
How have the Niners been able to have the level of success they've had, which has not included winning a Super Bowl in recent history, but they've been very successful? How have they been able to do that, considering how big of a miss it was, especially with the benefit of hindsight, in the Trey Lance move when they traded up to get him?
I mean, it's really impressive. It
Yeah.
also tells you, though, that, I mean, the NFC West, like Arizona is, I still don't understand what the coach meant. I don't know what the right answer is. Like, should I have come on the bus or should I have driven myself? Like, I thought about that for far too long. But anyway, like them having such a tough time is hard. That becomes easier for the people in the division. So I'm not taking anything away from them. I'm just saying, like, you got a really good defense. You're not paying at premium positions, but that could have been a disastrous amount of equity they gave up in order to get a guy who's not even performing for them.
What do you think the Cowboys are thinking with the Trey Lance move? I mean, a mid-round pick, it's not like they gave up the world for him, but, does Trey Lance have a future with the Cowboys? And if so, at what point?
To be honest with you, it's very interesting. It's very interesting to think that one through, because if you think about it, there's what's the right way to put this? Like, there's a lot of ways that this could go. And if Dak, I mean, I don't mean to sound, like I don't believe, like I'm not a believer in Dak, because I think Dak's great, but Mike McCarthy has a kind of a strange way of picking players and picking teams and calling games. And, you don't know how things can go when it comes to people like that, right?
Right. No, absolutely. Cynthia Frelund from the NFL Network is with us right now on John and Jim. There's been all this discussion, Cynthia. We see today Caleb Williams' dad telling GQ like he could even go back to college if it's not the right fit for him, depending on who's picking first overall in 2024. There's all this discussion about the Cardinals. I mean, do we know heading into the season that are the Cardinals historically bad heading into the year?
It doesn't feel like they're trying to be good.
Right.
I mean, it's hard to, it's hard to say how it goes. I mean, look, with Kyler, they knew Kyler was going to be out for an amount of time that would exceed 4 games, right? Like, we didn't know. We knew he wouldn't be ready for the beginning of the season and probably would start on PUP, and that means 4 games. So it's hard to say that they're doing well, that they're trying to do really well. It's just also hard to say. It's hard to know what you're looking at, I guess, is the thing. Because also, like, you get rid of Isaiah Simmons, on their defense, like, who's going to rush the passer? Buda Baker from the safety position? Like, that just doesn't seem right.
Right. And then, a couple of other teams, Cynthia, just like, the Rams, obviously a couple of years ago, winning a Super Bowl to where they are right now. Like, where are the Rams right now heading into 2023, and what do their prospects look like, both short term and I guess medium term to long term?
Well, they still got Aaron Donald, so that's a really big plus. And they've got Matthew Stafford, which is great. It's kind of a dagger that Cooper Kupp is at least going to be out the first game that was just announced. So that's a pretty big dagger, because it's not like they're very deep. It doesn't feel like they're very deep in any position. It feels like they really went all the way out to win that Super Bowl, but it worked for them. And then now they're kind of got to regroup and kind of restart and reset the salary cap clock here and reload a little bit.
And then finally, you mentioned you thought that the Jets are a playoff team. We know how loaded the AFC is. What about the Chargers? They were in last year. They still have a relatively young quarterback. What's your level of expectation for the Chargers this year?
Doesn't the beginning of September and late August feel like Charger season? We're like, this is the year. They have the roster. On paper, they look amazing. Like, everything's good. And then it just feels like there's like weird injuries or something happens and you don't know how it's going to go. Well, I'm kind of still in that boat for a lot of reasons, being mindful and worried about, like, okay, well, I've seen this before, and if it works, it's going to be awesome, because we saw last season, Justin Herbert had a 6.7 air yards per attempt, which is 31st out of 33 qualified quarterbacks. And now you've got Kellen Moore there, who presumably, especially with a healthy wide receiving core, is going to be able to get that number up nice and high, just like it was for the Dallas Cowboys. Well, okay, but like, let's see, can we have a full year from all of these guys? Because if we can, then it's going to look great.
But we are talking about the Chargers, to your point. So,
it's just weird. Doesn't it feel like every single, late August, early September. We're like, on paper, this seems amazing, unstoppable. And then something weird happens, like just something weird.
Yeah, it's interesting how that dynamic right here in San Diego has changed, where people were kind of on board with it for a long time. Hey, there's all this excitement for the Chargers. Then they didn't like to see how it transpired. And then, of course, the last 5 or 6 years, San Diegans are on board with what has happened really with the Chargers and their lack of success, by and large, since moving to LA, even with Justin Herbert. Cynthia, we always enjoy it. We hope we can catch up throughout the course of the season. For our listeners, make sure to check out NFL Network's NFL Game Day Morning, 6 a.m. Pacific, this Sunday with the NFL Network's analytics expert, Cynthia Frelund. Cynthia, thank you as always for doing it.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right, we'll do it again soon, again with Cynthia Frelund. Up next, we'll give away the San Diego State UCLA tickets. We'll hear from Bob Melvin as the Padres lose the series to the Phillies. And Jimmy Beal, San Diego State's running backs coach, will join us coming up at 5:30. Stay with us on John and Jim. Hey guys, it's Schaefer, and I've been telling you about our friends over at Windmill Farms. What a great spot, centrally located right here in San Diego, the college area's natural grocer. They've got you covered for all of your game day needs. I was over there again this past weekend, picked up some sandwiches and much more. They've got fresh, organic produce and meats, farm fresh produce and meats, an amazing craft beer selection. We picked some up this past weekend. They've got a full deli with award-winning sandwiches. Just a great selection of sandwiches, affordably priced. They're centrally located off Del Cerro Boulevard, across the freeway from Montezuma Mesa. Windmill Farms is your family-owned market serving the San Diego area for 20 years. Get ready for your weekend tailgates and do it with Windmill Farms. Again, their produce and their meats, their beer selection, kombuchas, their deli, and more. You can visit windmillfarms.com to see their weekly specials. Again, windmillfarms.com to check out their specials. Shop local, shop at Windmill Farms.
Here's what's trending from the iHeart Sports Network, presented by NFL on CBS, streaming on Paramount Plus. Here's what's trending from the iHeart Sports Network, presented by NFL on CBS, streaming on Paramount Plus. The Padres dropped their game to the Phillies today 5-1. The Padres dropped their game to the Phillies today 5-1 at Petco Park. They'll have the day off tomorrow before heading off to Houston on Friday. The Niners and defensive end Nick Bosa have agreed to a 5-year, $170 million extension that's going to make him the highest paid defensive player in NFL history. The extension includes $122.5 million guaranteed. Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce is officially listed as questionable for tomorrow night's opener against Detroit, and the Rams have ruled wide receiver Cooper Kupp out for week 1. Make sure to The Aztecs take on UCLA this Saturday at 4:30. Our pregame coverage starts right here at 2:30 with John Schaefer and J.R. Tulver. And make sure to catch the Brady Hoke Coaches Show tonight at 6 with John and Rich Ornberger.
All right, Jim is back tomorrow, so that's a good time to let you know. 760 texted in. Definitely prefer John and Brent. Jim back tomorrow
Thanks.
on John and Jim. Back from Philly. Or
I
wherever
didn't have
he
my
was.
mic on him. It's like Jim's back already. Thanks.
Yeah, you haven't sneezed though much.
I can try, I guess.
All right, do not go anywhere. We have Aztec tickets to give away. Don't call now. We'll let you know when to call. Probably at some point in the next 6-7 minutes. So we'll let you know when to call. Aztecs Bruins Saturday pregame flyover. Tickets are available. GoAztecs.com. Big game for both teams. San Diego State, UCLA. Bruins here to take on San Diego State for the first time since 2005. So it's cliche. You've heard when it rains, it pours. Well, Padres lose, and they lose players as well in the process. Here's a portion of Bob Melvin just a moment ago with the media.
Like two different ones. So one that's running pretty good, one that has a lot of life up in the zone. Just enough breaking balls to keep us off balance. He was good.
Looked like it was more of a battle day for Michael today, but did his best to try to keep you in there.
Yeah, I mean, one pitch to Harper there, and it's still a run. I don't know how he got out of the first with only one run, but he tends to be able to do that. So it was a lot of pitches there in 4 innings, but just really one pitch away with Harper.
Just the one moment with Juan was the same thing with his hand.
Yeah.
Just kind of comes and goes stinger.
It's the finger, so it hasn't, we haven't seen him do that in a while, but got him a couple times today.
I know why it happened and all, but could you go over the decision with Fernando and just what you thought there?
It's I'm just trying to get our hottest hitter up there and didn't want to play anybody too out of position, so he's all up for it. It's just lack of what we have right now.
So that's pretty exclusively just the situation, and you wouldn't get Campy there, and it is something that probably wouldn't happen again in the future.
I hope not.
You guys are closing in on 3 million fans. Got close today. I think the next one will be. What do you make of kind of what they've meant to you guys this season? You got one homestand left.
It's been as amazing as last year was. It even seems more so this year based on the fact that we just haven't played well. But they keep coming out. It really is amazing. I think we broke a record for sellouts, and we still have another homestand coming up. So Bryce Miller wrote an article about how they're the MVP this year. He was spot on.
In this series, did you ever find yourself comprehending like where you guys are at now and where the Phillies are, and after you guys played that series last year and then the playoffs?
No, we're just trying to win games right now. Where there was a time and you're looking at the standings and we feel like one day it's kind of a roller coaster. We're just trying to win games right now. So we're not comparing ourselves to anybody right now. We're just trying to win games.
Was Zach maybe as tough as he was? Maybe even tougher than last October?
Yeah. Well, look, we didn't get too many good swings off him today. So, made him work a little harder. It was 6 innings that he had to come out after, but degrees of good, I'm not really sure.
Choi left his game yesterday in El Paso. Anything come of that?
Yeah, I think he fractured his ankle. I think there's a break there. And Gary, too. Gary, his right wrist had to come out of the game. Fractured wrist. Yeah.
You have a TBA for Sunday?
Not yet.
It is TBA, though?
Yep.
What is going into that, Bob? Sunday, the decision there.
Just how we get there.
Might Hill have to be used before that, or?
Well, it could be Waldron, too. I mean, Nick's a possibility.
Given everything that Gary's meant to you guys, how tough is
that? It's sick to your stomach. He's put together an incredible year. It's been, tough travels to begin with. Gets here and is impactful right away. Fits into this team like a glove. I mean, just a lot of great stuff he's accomplished this year. And, with only, not too much time left to have it's a tough pill to swallow for everybody. He's one of, everybody's favorite in the clubhouse. Like I said, he's just a favorite here for everybody. Gets along great and has been very, very productive. So unfortunate.
How depressing was that 3.5 minute clip? I mean, the vision, the video.
I should have played
Brent.
Debbie Downer after it.
Seriously, the clips before, like maybe in the Olympics, where like someone is about to finish like a 26-mile marathon, and they like cramp up or they like break an ankle or they can't finish, and they get like picked up by 2 other runners and picked up, and that's how they like cross the finish line. Like, how are the Padres even going to cross the finish line? They don't know who's pitching Sunday. They don't have catchers. They don't have bench pieces. They've got questions up and down. Bob Melvin saying the MVP of the team is the fans, and he's right. And Bryce Miller wrote about it, and that's spot on. Fans have been incredible. Everything else has been a disaster. And when you listen to Bob Melvin and you don't watch him, but you just listen to him, like what you just heard there, this could not be any worse than it is. There is no scenario. If you played this season 1 million times over, they're never worse than they are right now. That's how bad it is. You could play this out 1 million times, and they'll never be worse than they are right now. Think about that. There's no path to a worse performance than what we've seen from this team this year. You heard it directly from the manager. Handcuffed, situation I'm in, injuries, ineffectiveness. Hey, remember when you played the Phillies in the NLCS last year? Dude, we're just trying to win games. It's crazy. It is absolutely crazy. Anyway, call right now. We have tickets to see San Diego State against UCLA Saturday at Snapdragon Stadium. 844-570-1360. Caller 9. They're yours. 844-570-1360. If you don't have tickets, grab them at goaztecs.com. Should be a great atmosphere. Big game in San Diego. San Diego State, UCLA, a couple of undefeated teams. 844-570-1360. Jimmy Beal, San Diego State's running backs coach, will join us at 5:30. Back to the Padres and the incredible disappointment of 2023. What happens next? On the other side, hour 3 of John and Jim is next.
Here's what's trending from the iHeart Sports Network, presented by NFL on CBS, streaming on Paramount+. The Padres dropped their game to the Phillies today, 5-1 at Petco Park. They'll have the day off tomorrow before heading off to Houston on Friday. The Niners and defensive end Nick Bosa have agreed a 5-year, $170 million extension that's going to make him the highest paid defensive player in NFL history. The extension includes $122.5 million guaranteed. Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce is officially listed as questionable for tomorrow night's opener against Detroit, and the Rams have ruled wide receiver Cooper Kupp out for week 1. The Aztecs take on UCLA this Saturday at 4:30. Our pregame coverage starts right here at 2:30 with John Schaefer and JR Tulver. And make sure to catch the Brady Hoke Coaches Show tonight at 6 with John and Rich Ornberger.
The NFL on CBS streams live on Paramount Plus.
Touchdown!
It all kicks off this Sunday at 4:25 Eastern when the Eagles visit the Patriots.
This is incredible.
Visit ParamountPlus.com/NFL to start your free trial today.
San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? Final hour of John and Jim. Jim theoretically returns tomorrow.
But is he really, or is this going to be like when he flew back from Mexico?
That's the thing. I asked that question because he's actually flying back today. And I'm like, are you trying to fly back today and be on the show today? Like, you don't fly from the East Coast and make it for a 3:00 show, I wouldn't think. And he's like, no, I think he learned his lesson from that, because you're right. A couple of months ago, he flew back from Cabo to TJ and was supposed to get into Tijuana at like 1:30. Remember that? He's like, yeah, get into TJ at 1:30. I'll be there for the 3:00 show. I'm like, you will? There's like customs, and you got to get across the border, and you got to drive here. And of course, he never made it. I mean, literally, he never made it. So I think he learned his lesson. I think. I don't really know.
Well, that in between the time when you thought you could drive from Palm Springs to here in like 2 hours.
Dude, we've had a couple of interesting days. Yeah, Jim tried to, again, do a show when he traveled the same day and had like 60 minutes to work with. I was such an idiot that day. I have no idea what I was thinking. That day, I literally left Santa Monica at like noon. I'm like, yeah, I'll make it downtown for the remote on a Friday, a summer Friday. I was literally an idiot. That was a 5-hour drive. A 5-hour drive. And like, that's my worst nightmare, of missing a show or being late for a show. Like, I've had that recurring nightmare as like a play-by-play guy. Like, the game's happening and I'm setting up the equipment, or even as a talk guy, like the show's happening and you're not there. And I was literally living through that. I'm driving down the 5, listening to Jim make fun of me for leaving LA at noon, thinking I could do a show at 3. It did not go well. By the way, someone off of Twitter at John Schaefer, JONSCHAEFFER. You can follow us at John and Jim as well, JONANDJIM. Michael Walker, loyal listener, I think viewer, potentially on YouTube as well. When we talked about the Padres and what Melvin just said there, how he was like, I mean, it was depressing to listen to. Like, who disagrees with that? It was depressing to listen to. Well, Michael Walker said, and then I said, like, this is a 1 in a million season, I think. Could they really be worse than 9 games under 500 with nothing to play for the entire month of September? Was that in like the hypotheticals for the year, that they could be worse than this? Like, this is outside of the statistical possibilities. The team was supposed to win 98 games, and now they might not win 75. Like, that's statistically almost an impossibility. And Michael on Twitter says 1 in a million might be overstating it a little bit, John. I mean, maybe. But just maybe, are you telling me that there was a scenario where they were worse than this? Man, I'm glad we didn't have to see that, because this is about as bad as you can envision. They still could finish, Michael, with one of the worst 6 or 7 records in baseball. They are essentially mathematically eliminated with 21 games to play. Consider that. Fangraphs is giving them a less than 1% chance of making the postseason, something like 0.6 or 0.7% chance. Like, how could this have gone worse?
Hey, at least they've given us our slogan for next season. It's nowhere to go but up.
Nowhere to go but up, man. That was 2019. That was coming off 2019 with 2020.
Go from we got what we got, let's roll with it, to this.
Nowhere to go but up. After 2019, we're like, well, 2020 is going to be better, and there was a pandemic. And it was better on field when they finally played 37-23. No idea what would have happened if they played 162, but it was better in that short period of time. Then there was 2021, where you literally had Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis Jr. nearly come to blows in a dugout in St. Louis, right? Had to be held back from each other, verbal altercation, which, by the way, can happen in sports. It can. It can happen. But you had that, the lowest of the low points, September of 2021, when the wheels completely fell off, and the Padres, I don't even know what they finished, but it was bad, right? 6-30 or something in their final 35 or 36 games. And we said after 2021, well, nowhere to go but up. And it did. It wasn't easy, but it did. And they got to the National League Championship Series last year. And then this was completely unimaginable. It just was. There was not a scenario where you added Fernando Tatis Jr. and Xander Bogaerts, brought back as much as they brought back, and did a 180 in about face. Like, that was impossible to envision, but it is sports. And sometimes something like this does happen. And it's played out right in front of our eyes. and we've been waiting for it to turn over, and it's never turned over. And now we know how it's going to finish, which is completely disappointing as one of the most disappointing teams really obviously in baseball this year, and truthfully, one of the more disappointing teams probably in modern baseball history.
Well, it's like we brought up yesterday that, beginning of the year, you looked at the team on paper, and if you would have told us that, they're going to struggle to win, 80 games and finish, even close to 500, we would have laughed you out of the building.
Right.
But here we are, and
nobody's really laughing.
Well,
you laugh because it's the alternative is crying. If you've been through this, it's like the only thing you can do is laugh. I've started so many wrap-up shows on YouTube this year. I've said that. I've said, Mama said there'd be days like this. You just didn't say there'd be this many. I've been singing "Turn Out the Lights," the party's over in like June, and people people say, well, it's only April, it's only May, it's only June, it's only July. There's an expanded wild card. 6 teams in the National League are going to make the postseason. The National League isn't very good. We've used every excuse in the book until there's nowhere else to turn.
Well, and it's also a kick in the groin too that you're starting to see articles pop up now from up north to where, oh yeah, everyone said that the Padres won the offseason or won the winter, but then they still finished in 22 games out of first place again.
Yeah, like I said, the alternative to laughing is crying. At least you had last year's postseason where you beat the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And created that level of disappointment in LA, and where they called their 111 win season a disappointment based on what the Padres did a year ago. You bring up an interesting point. Some slogans are coming in right now on the text line.
Oh, okay, good.
70470, start it with team. What's your slogan for the 2024 Padres? What's your slogan for the 2024 Padres? Or 844-570-1360.
This one, 619, it's not quite Al Davis, but just win, please.
Please. Just win, please.
Just win, baby. Just win, please.
Please. Like, what's your slogan for next year's Padres? 844-570-1360. 70470, start your message with team. I listened to Bob Melvin today after another demoralizing loss. And if you missed it, we played it 20 minutes ago. We're not going to play it again. It was depressing. It was hard to listen to. You've got a manager saying, I don't know where else to turn. Gary Sanchez has a fractured wrist. G-Man Choi has a fractured ankle. We don't know who's pitching this weekend in Houston.
We don't know who's catching.
We can't even compare ourselves to the Phillies right now. We're not in the comparison game, the comp game. We know we're in the NLCS against them last year, but these two teams are in different directions and stratospheres right now.
Well, it's depressing enough just talking about this season, and then that one guy kept bringing up last year's postseason over and over again. So it's just like, oh yeah, this season's not going great. Let's go and relive how last year's season ended.
Right,
man.
and last year's postseason could not feel further away. And you've heard me before say, it was 2022. Is it worth nothing what they accomplished in 2022? But the further you get away from it, nobody's really thinking about the Padres' postseason accomplishments a year ago right now. They're just not. And, there's 3 weeks to go or 3.5 weeks to go in the regular season. And that's probably not going to be a legitimate excuse heading into the offseason. Well, they were good in 2022. Well, the Phillies were good in 2022, and look how they followed it up by being good again in 2023. Professional sports, even college sports, it's a what have you done for me recently game. It's zero sum. It's a now game. And in the here and now, it's tough to see how everything gets better immediately. And when I say immediately, I'm talking about 2024. There's good news. You've got players in their primes under contract, like Juan Soto and Fernando Tatis Jr., but you need these players to perform at a better level next year. And we've had countless guests on this year to tell us that just because you flip the calendar to 2024 doesn't mean all of a sudden everything is fixed. I think it's possible. And like I said moments ago, like if this is a 1 in a million season, then you've got a 999,999 chance that maybe it's better in 2024. But how much better? This team might not win more than 70-something games. They're going to have to be much better in 2024. And do we have faith in that happening under this leadership? What do you got?
All right, we got some more slogans coming in. 858 2024 Padres, huh? Well, see you later. That's a Dumb and Dumber reference for everybody.
Okay.
We got 619 team slogan. Come see us get to 500.
Right. The Dick Montfort slogan for the Rockies. We might win 80 games.
And then another 619. Never remember. Instead of never forget. Never remember.
It's just, it really has been a season to forget. And we'll see if the organization is able to do that or not. Do you just forget it, cast it aside, move on, turn the calendar, bring everyone back and say, hey, this was a 1 in a million. This was a 1 in a million. We'll be better in 2024. I don't know if it's as easy as that. I really don't.
They could just replay their press conference from like 2 years ago when they had their last collapse.
At the end of 2021.
They said, oh, no, this is just a 1 in a million. It's never going to happen again.
All right, Jimmy Beal is going to join us coming up at 5:30. He's San Diego State's running backs coach. San Diego State, RBU, 300 yards rushing this past week against Idaho State. What's it going to take to beat UCLA on Saturday? It's his first year on the Mesa. What's this transition been like? He was coaching at his alma mater, Montana State. He's now coaching this really deep stable of tailbacks at San Diego State. He'll join us coming up at 5:30. By the way, between now and 5:30, we have more tickets to give away. This time to see Chevelle. We have those, right? I think we have a pair of tickets.
Yes.
Okay, pair of tickets to see Chevelle. This is at the Cal Coast Credit Union Amphitheater, October 2nd. You can get your tickets at Ticketmaster.com. Keep listening for your chance to win. We'll give those tickets away in the next 10 minutes. More text rolling in?
Yeah, 619. This year we will finish 21 games behind LA. Get your tickets now.
619, 2024 Padres. Is that what's in? Remember?
Yeah.
Whatever happened last year.
Another 619. We got a Waterboy reference. We suck again.
I mean, again, you laugh because the alternative is to cry based on what we've seen here in 2023. Here's some good news as the calendar has flipped to September and you look ahead. By the way, San Diego State basketball starts 2 months from tonight. 2 months from tonight, you got San Diego State basketball. This weekend, you have San Diego State football. The Aztecs are 2-0. That's all we asked of them. We said, beat Ohio, put yourself in a position where you're hosting UCLA at 2-0. That's what they've done. We've seen this play out before. I mentioned this yesterday. We've seen the odds stacked against San Diego State, against a Pac-12 opponent. Oh, they're not going to beat Stanford. Oh, they're not going to beat Arizona State. Oh, they're not going to, right? I mean, we've seen this play out. Oh, well, they only beat Weber State by 6 points. Oh, they lost to Eastern Illinois, right? We've seen, oh, they trailed New Mexico State. They can't possibly beat whomever. Well, maybe they can. Maybe they can. They've been in these spots before. This is going to take everything they got. This really is. I mean, listen, this is not some easy matchup. You've got all the talent on the offensive side of the ball with UCLA, the 3 quarterbacks they possess, a 5-star player in Dante Moore. They've improved on defense. They're fully capable of being top 25 caliber UCLA, one of the better teams in the Pac-12. And San Diego State's 14.5-point underdog. And that's a big number. So this will not come easy. But that's not to say that it's not possible just because of what happened this past week against Idaho State. And I read the message boards and I see social media and I see the interactions and I see the text line and I see it all, right? I consume it because it's what I do. And the general consensus is they got no shot. No shot. Turn the ball over too much on Saturday. Offense isn't good enough. Can't throw the ball. Defense isn't good enough. They got no shot. And I'm like, well, hold on. I mean, you're basing this all off the Idaho State game? Like the whole season, everything we need to know about San Diego State is based on the Idaho State game. This isn't the 2023 Padres where we have the 140 games of data. We're basing everything off the Idaho State game when we told you a week earlier beating Ohio is going to be a damn good win, and they beat Ohio. But we've completely discounted that. Well, they knocked the quarterback out. Well, isn't that a credit to San Diego State? Not to injure the quarterback, but to, get to the quarterback, to get home. But that doesn't matter. What they did against Ohio, covering the spread, by the way, that doesn't matter because they didn't cover the spread against FCS member Idaho State.
Well, it's one of those things too where, it's just, get Jim's cliche book out. It's just sports where anything could happen. How many times in my life has there been like a Bears game or a Badger game where they're playing number 1 Ohio State, where we have no chance at all, and I myself give them no chance to win, and then they come out and they win. So lots of the times when I rule that it's impossible for them to get a win, that's when they come out and they surprise us. So who's saying that they can't come out and just surprise everybody here?
And it's funny because everyone's like, oh my gosh, this would be a huge surprise. I'm like, it would?
Well, and plus, it's not like you brought up earlier, it's not like we're going down to Tuscaloosa to where we're playing Alabama. And, this isn't a knock on the Bruins. The Bruins are a good football team, but they're not Alabama, to where, we have it. We can beat UCLA. If we do, that's another story, but we can beat them.
Right. Like, two things can be true. One is which they may not win the game, and that doesn't ultimately determine their season. The other is they might win the game, and that doesn't ultimately determine their season either. And again, like we've talked about, they've beaten Pac-12 teams consistently. Doesn't guarantee that they're going to do it on Saturday. And to your point, take nothing away from UCLA. But would we really be surprised? Would you be utterly shocked that come Saturday night, San Diego State beat UCLA 28-24? Would that be the most shocking result of the season? To me, it wouldn't. To me, that's not Colorado going to Fort Worth and beating TCU. To me, it's not.
It's not even Duke beating Clemson.
It's not. I'm with you. All right, let's go back to the phones. Greg wants to weigh in on the disappointment of the Padres. 844-570-1360 if you've got a slogan for the Padres in 2024. 844-570-1360. Or if you just want to vent like we all do, give us a call. Greg, you're on with John and Jim. Thanks for calling in.
I appreciate the taking the call.
Yeah.
Just going back to, what was it, 2020, last year, 2022, where, it came down to the last 2-3 games where the Padres finally did make the play. They finally were in the playoffs, right? And then went on the run. They didn't really deal with any sort of injuries. They didn't, everybody kind of played their role, played up to their part. They had the really good beginning of the season, record-wise. This year, it's kind of like, they never got out of their own way, right? They started off the season not so great. Couldn't, guys in, runners in scoring position, couldn't get guys in. And that just, just kept rolling. It just kind of, built and built and built. And kind of, like I said, they kind of got it in their own way. They didn't deal with any major injuries this year. So, you have to look at 2024. What happens if, you do have a major injury to one of the top 4 guys, or somebody's out for a prolonged amount of time. It's like, like dealing with adversity and trying to get over it. Like, have they really, stepped up to the challenge of being, kind of punched in the face? How do they respond? They really haven't, obviously haven't done it this year. What happens next year? Again, it can't be the whole, we're just going to hit our way out of it. We're just going to keep grinding. It's like, okay, great. But you got to do something about it.
Yeah, it's a fair point, Greg, and thank you for the call. I would say this. You're spot on, because you're right. You don't know what's going to happen when it comes to injuries in 2024. And I agree with the overall sentiment that they've been relatively healthy. And you may say, well, hold on. Darvish, Musgrove, Cronenworth. Yeah, late in the season, guys. Like, we knew where they were heading before those injuries. I think most people knew where they were heading before those injuries. The thing that's so hard to figure out is you're like, well, you can't put your finger on it. Even Gary Sanchez today. So he breaks his wrist, right? He fractures his wrist. His season's over. He says post-game, I see something from Marty Caswell on Twitter, where his quote is saying, I've been a big fan of the chemistry here. I'd love to come back. And like, everyone's been so critical of the chemistry. There's this belief that the reason it's not working on field is because there's got to be something going on in the dynamic that's preventing it from working on field. But why is Gary Sanchez saying something like that? His season's over. He wants to return. He's quoted as saying he likes the chemistry here, but there's a chemistry issue, right? That's what we're led to believe. But he wants to come back. But there's a culture issue? Is it just a 1 in a million? And if it is, nobody's going to want to hear that. You can't say that. Peter Seidler's not going to be quoted at the end of the year saying the same thing to Brent's point. Maybe you play it back because you already have the tape. He said in 2021, it's a 1 in 100-year collapse. Now, this is different because they didn't technically collapse. They were never really good. They were never 10, 20 games over 500. But can you say that our result over 162 was just outside the norm of possibility? It was a a one in a blue moon event that put us here. The fact that we lost in extra innings and we couldn't come up with clutch hits and we were 6-22 in one-run games. Can you really say that and get away with that, so to speak?
Do you almost feel like this year's worse because at least when we had our 2021 collapse, we were at the peak to at least collapse from, opposed to this year where we never even made the summit to even, we made it up, the 500 steps. We got 3 steps up and then we fell down every single time.
Honestly, both ways aren't fun. No matter how it ends up when you're on the outside looking in, there's no good result, unfortunately. But it is a good point. It's like they didn't even fool us. They really didn't even fool us into
they
thinking.
didn't even give us a glimmer of hope this year.
No.
At least in the major collapse, we all had hope until it was all squashed away from us.
All right, Jimmy Beal is San Diego State's new running backs coach. He'll join us on the other side right now. Caller 3, you've got 2 free tickets to see Chevelle at the Cal Coast Credit Union Amphitheater. That's October 2nd. Buy tickets now at Ticketmaster.com. 844-570-1360. Call right now. Caller 3, you have 2 free tickets to see Chevelle October 2nd, Cal Coast Credit Union Amphitheater. The number to call, 844-570-1360. Caller 3, they are yours. Jimmy Beal, San Diego State running backs coach, will join us next. All right, Jimmy Beal, San Diego State's running backs coach, will join us coming up next. All right, we're going to catch up with Jimmy Beal. He is a first-year running back coach for the Aztecs. San Diego State, again, has UCLA Saturday. You can hear it right here on San Diego Sports 760. Ted Leitner, Rich Ornberger on the call. Pre-game coverage with myself, J.R. Tolver. I think Jim Russell will make an appearance. Our pre-game coverage will begin at 2:30 Saturday, Snapdragon Stadium. Again, tickets
I
are
can't wait to hear
available.
what Jim's going to eat.
Yes, you will hear that. That'll be basically the highlight of the pregame show with Jim. What are you going to eat
That was
inside?
his big contribution in week 1.
And then he took week 2 off to go to Philadelphia. He's back, though, for game number 3. So Jimmy Beal's going to join us in a moment. San Diego State has really been able to run the ball effectively, right? I mean, 300 yards rushing against Idaho State. It's going to really potentially start and end offensively with running the ball against UCLA. You'll hear from Brady Hoke coming up at 6 p.m., the Brady Hoke Show, right here on San Diego Sports 760. He knows in order to beat UCLA, you need to keep their offense off the field. Coastal Carolina was able to execute on that this past week. They held the ball for 35 minutes this past week. It kept them in the game. And UCLA only ran something like 60 plays. So if San Diego State's able to run the ball effectively, they'll give themselves a chance. And we know the formula. I always talk about it. Hold the ball for more than 30 minutes, rush for 200-plus yards, finish +1 or better, and that's how you win football games. And that's what San Diego State essentially did Saturday against Idaho State. They were even in turnovers, but they ran for 300 yards. And they held the ball for 30-plus minutes. And they won the game. They found a way to win the game. Again, 36-28. We have Jimmy Beal with us, San Diego State's first-year running backs coach, with us here on John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760, right off the practice field. Coach, we appreciate you taking some time for us. You're getting ready, obviously, for UCLA. What has this transition been like for you? Montana State for a couple of years, your alma mater, having this opportunity been like for you so far?
Oh, it's been amazing. I mean, the people here are really, really good people. The coaches are so welcoming. Coach Hope, man, he just welcomed me with open arms. And my guys they're a pretty special group.
So how did this opportunity come about? Because you're at Montana State, you're having all kinds of success, some of the best running numbers in the country in FCS football, and then you had this opportunity at San Diego State. How did this come about?
I mean, honestly, it was just word of mouth. I think Coach Hope and Coach Winley did an amazing job with the process of figuring out, the best guy to come in and replace a legendary coach like Coach, and I think that was something big. I think they did their due diligence, and they looked. I know Coach even told me. He said we looked at every running back coach in the nation, pretty much, and you kept on coming up. And so I guess the work they saw, and that was something that I'm really happy about. You know what I mean? Whatever that is, and they got to see it, and so I'm here now.
Well, you've had a ton of success in your coaching career. And to start the year, this team has had success on the ground. Of course, last week against Idaho State, 300-plus rushing yards. What's it been like for you to coach, this group? Keenan Christian and Jalen Armstead, Martin Blake, the walk-on, Cam Davis, and others. What's this group been like for you to work with?
Oh, they're a tight-knit unit. I mean, they are so supportive of one another, and they really kind of brought me into the fold as a new guy, because they've been together for a couple of years now, and for me just to be working with them and trying to understand how they work and how I work, and the communication has been amazing. So just that balance of getting to know each other, and they know how when I'm mad or when I'm happy, or and it's just communication. And they've been amazing. I mean, they're all special in their own different way, and I get to see that.
All right, Jimmy Beal is with us right now. You can tell that San Diego State is literally right now just getting off the practice field. Again, the Aztecs have the Bruins on Saturday at 4:30. Our pregame coverage will begin at 2:30. I briefly mentioned Martin Blake. What's impressed you the most about his performance, the walk-on who's been a big contributor for you guys the first couple of weeks?
Yeah, no, I think Martin is just a true representative to put the work in. I mean, he's a guy that studies the game and understands our offense, and he's a guy that I use as a coach. You know what I mean? It was the coolest thing to see him this summer, just training and keeping up and just teaching the guys the offense out there and being a leader. And his role, and I mean, he's not on scholarship, but again, a guy that just loves football, and his ability just to figure that out and understand his role, and just when his moment came, he just took advantage of it. And I think that's something that you're going to get with him. Whenever that moment's going to come, he'll be ready to go.
Do you prefer, Coach, to have a balanced rushing attack, so to speak, where you can turn to 3, 4, 5 tailbacks that could give you 5, 10, 12 carries? Or would the preference be to have 1 or 2 players get the lion's share of the work?
Well, in the recruiting process, you always want to kind of find a guy that's something that's not in your own room. So I think every single one of the guys all have different attributes. And for me, it's the ability to put those guys in, they know their role. I think guys, once they know a role they have, and be able to say, hey, this is what my job is, I can really kind of like just go full out on this role and know what it is. They have a lot of success. So for me, it's always, the high hand's going to get it and everybody's going to have an opportunity. But I definitely want to make sure every guy has a role in my room. You know what I mean? And that just makes the room a very great place to be in, and everybody's supportive of one another. And when the opportunity comes from one another, they're just the biggest, happiest person for one another.
San Diego State running back coach Jimmy Beal with us right now on John and Jim. So correct me if I'm wrong. When you were in college, you were a track guy too, right? Like you were a runner. Now, Keenan Christian has the track background. So Jimmy Beal is a 22-year-old. Keenan Christian is a 22-year-old. Who's winning that race?
All right. Are we talking about the 60 or talking about the 100?
You tell me. You tell
okay,
me.
If you're talking about the 60, I definitely got him. You know, that 100 now. He got about 3 inches on me, and his legs are a little bit longer, so he might get me now. You know, what I mean, at that 22 spot. So, but no, I mean, Ken is definitely has some electric ability, man. And it's cool to see him, and kind of everybody wants to put him in that track mode of, hey, you're a track running back, and I'm like, bro, that is not who you are. You are a football player that is playing running back. You know what I mean? So,
right.
Not let anybody put him in that box. Just like I trust me, I know all about. I got the one up on him. I did run track in college. He didn't get that yet. So
let me ask you this before we let you go. This weekend against UCLA, specifically from your group, what's it going to take for your group to be successful and help San Diego State potentially knock off the Bruins?
The one thing for us is just play hard. I tell the guys empty the tank on every play. You know what I mean? You get in some places where they're always worried about saving something for the second half or saving something for our next play. The ability for our room to trust one another and for me to be able to put those guys in the right situation, I think allows those guys to play as hard as they can on every single snap. And believing in those guys as far as their abilities and having them in the right roles, I think they're going to do that. You know what I mean? So them just playing and really understanding that this is their role and they're going to play the hardest as they can. And then if they're out, the next guy's going to do it. So we definitely have family and the community at the running back line.
We're excited, Coach, for this weekend. Huge opportunity, obviously. San Diego State and UCLA. Congratulations on all your successes in your first year here on the Mesa with San Diego State. Best of luck this weekend, and we hope to do it again soon. So thank you.
No problem. I appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
All right. Jimmy Beal, San Diego State's first-year running backs coach. We'll take a time out. We'll get you ready for San Diego State and UCLA. By the way, real quick, we'll have Brent's back page, not Jim, because Jim hasn't been here in like a month. Tomorrow, we'll have a betting expert on the show, Dave Mason from Bet Online. NFL openers tomorrow night. Ben Bolch from the LA Times covers the Bruins. He will join us on Friday. And, of course, Kevin Acee, our Padres insider, will join us from Houston on Friday as well. Brent's back page, that comes your way next on John and Jim. All right, Brent's back page. That comes up next. All right, Jim Russell's return tomorrow at 3. San Diego Sports 760, back from Philadelphia after a week-long hiatus. He'll be back tomorrow. Again, we'll have a betting expert for you tomorrow, getting you ready for week 1 of the NFL. Chiefs, Lions, Dave Mason, Bet Online will join us tomorrow afternoon. Ben Bolch, LA Times on the UCLA Bruins will join us Friday. Kevin Acey will be on the show Friday as well. Now, yesterday, we didn't have a chance to do Brent's back page.
No.
And that's because we had Martin Blake,
Yes.
San Diego State running back, on the show around 5:40 or so. So we didn't have Brent's back page. Now, the difference between when Brent does the back page and when Jim does the back page is Brent
I actually have it done before 5:45.
You prepare for it. That's exactly right. The only real difference is you have spent time getting ready for it. Now, Jim somehow is able to put I guess he has it in his phone because he's never caught completely flat-footed.
Well, all I do is if I see something that I think is back page worthy, I'll take a screenshot of it on my phone. So then when I come in, I'll go through my phone and I'll be like, oh, yeah, that's right. This happened up in Northern California. And then that's how I remember to do it.
I do that for the show constantly. Like all day long, not all day long, but I see something, a tweet, and I'm like, even as opposed to bookmarking it, I'll just screenshot it. And then I'll look back at my
even
photos.
for like my update, when the Rams released that Cooper Kupp was out this week,
Yep.
I screenshot it. So I remember to put it in my update.
All right. So again, without further ado, we didn't have it yesterday. Let's get to Brent's back page.
You know, the good thing, most of the stories from yesterday carried over to today, other than
Still apply.
Yesterday was National Cheese Pizza Day. So we had a bunch of good deals on cheese pizzas and other pizzas, but that is
Next
no
year.
more. Yep.
Next year.
Once again, wait till next year.
Next year.
John, have you ever had surgery before?
I have.
Have you ever been worried that a doctor was going to leave something in your body while performing said surgery?
That is scary. And no. And is that on the doctor or like the assistants that are like,
I'd blame them all in my lawsuit.
dude, What was left in a patient?
Well, in Auckland, New Zealand, a dinner plate sized device was found inside of a woman's abdomen 18 months after having
Come
a
on.
C-section.
A dinner plate sized item?
Yeah, they didn't really say what the device was. They just said it was an AWR, which is a retractable cylindrical. That's Jim. I'm making up words. Device with translucent films, which I guess is why they said they couldn't see it when it got lost in there. But yeah, this woman had pain and everything for over a year.
I wonder why.
Yeah, and then they finally noticed that. Oh yeah, we had a dinner plate sized object that we sewed back up in you.
No,
Oopsie.
here's my thinking when I'm having surgery, which I've had a couple of times. Like, I think the thought process for most people that are about to go like under the knife is like, you're worried, like, am I going to wake up?
Well, yeah, it's that's something like you always see in the movies where it's like, oh, the surgeon, his watch fell off in my stomach, and now I have his Rolex in my stomach.
Yeah,
But,
no thanks.
yeah, so just keep that in mind if you ever decide to go to New Zealand and have surgery. From news over in Italy, a tourist damaged a 16th century Florence fountain while climbing it to take a selfie. And they've been having tons of issues in Italy with jerkbag tourists going over there and destroying priceless pieces of art to get a selfie for IG.
Because here's the thing, you can't replicate that. Whoever created it in 1644 isn't around to, do
they can't
touch
fix
up.
it. Yeah.
So what happens if you do that? You get a fine? You go to
They're
jail?
looking for them, and if they find them, they're going to be prosecuted. And the good thing is they should be easy to find because they're posting the photos everywhere on social
Instagram.
media. Yes.
Yeah,
So.
good point. All right. What else you have?
And speaking of pizza, a California eatery has been. Shut up, Siri. A California eatery serves the best pizza in the entire state. This is according to Love Food. Do you have a guess of what? It's here in San Diego.
The pizza joint
place,
that's the best in the state of California, or is it the best in the country?
Best in California.
Best in California is here in San Diego.
Jim eats there a lot.
Buena Forchetta.
That is correct.
That's a spectacular place.
Yep, they've been named the best pizza joint in all of California.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we get them here at the station sometimes, and I like their pizza.
It's really good.
Yep. So go check out Buena Forchetta.
Did you share that with Jim? He's going to like freak out.
No, I haven't talked to Jim other than I texted him at like 1:00 East Coast time to talk about Ahsoka. I didn't even care if he was awake. That's Star Wars, John. I didn't care if he's awake. I texted him anyway.
So this was last night then?
Yes,
Overnight, basically, for him?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. And then finally, the news that's been all over the internet in one of these that I call only in Florida stories. A 3-legged bear broke into a Florida patio and drank a couple White Claws, and then he bounced.
So the drinks were in like a patio fridge?
Yes. People had like a backyard, like patio area, and the bear found its way into the patio area, opened up the mini fridge, had himself what was the flavor? It was a mango and something else, but it drank 2 White Claw, a mango and a strawberry White Claw. And then it just hung out for a little bit and then left. But a 3-legged bear broke into somebody's patio in Florida, drank a couple White Claws, and then bounced.
So the 3 legs had nothing to do with him like drinking and then
no, that
losing
was
a
just
paw.
a unique characteristic of said White Claw drinking bear.
Wow. Interesting. Kind of doesn't it make sense that a bear would have a claw?
Yeah. I don't know if it's a White Claw or not, but yeah.
It kind of makes sense, right? It
Yeah.
kind of makes sense. All right. I like it. Good job at the back page. We'll see if Jim can top that tomorrow.
Well, I'm sure he'll have something in space that's going to kill us all in 2035.
Oh, there's no question. There's no question about it. Now, here's the good news about tomorrow. Padres aren't playing. So that's relatively
Can't
good
lose
news.
tomorrow.
Like, if you listen to Bob Melvin postgame, which we shared for you an hour ago, you're thankful the Padres aren't playing tomorrow.
I feel like I should have played REM. Everybody hurts underneath that.
Seriously. Like, I mean, you got Gary Sanchez out for the year. You have G-Man Choi out for the year. You have Jay Cronenworth out for the year. You have Joe Musgrove and Yu Darvish trending for out for the year. You have guys playing out of position. You've got, I mean, just one thing after the next. It's like you can't even make it up. But here's the thing. They still have 21 games to play. And they're off tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll talk some NFL. It's here, finally, 2023, Super Bowl champs. Chiefs, Lions tomorrow. We'll catch up with Dave Mason from Bet Online. And then Friday, we'll get you ready for the Padres and the Astros, again with Kevin Acee, our Padres insider. Ben Bolch, LA Times, will join us Friday as well as we gear up for San Diego State and UCLA. I think we have another pair of tickets tomorrow. One more pair of tickets.
Yeah, tomorrow's our last day.
For the Aztecs and the Bruins. Be with us tomorrow afternoon beginning at 3 p.m. All right, great job by Brent. Jim is back tomorrow. If you missed anything today, sportssd.com, iHeartRadio app, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify. You can go to YouTube, search for John and Jim 760. You can follow us on social media at John and Jim, JONANDJIM. Again, Jim, he's back tomorrow. For Brent, I'm John. Again, keep it right here. We'll be back tomorrow at 3. Keep it right here. It's the all-new San Diego Sports 760. Okay.